We'll call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board, Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Evening.
Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member. My left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor.
Hello.
My right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member.
Good evening.
Jesse Poynton, a voting member.
Good evening.
Jonathan Mount, our Township Zoning Officer. Before we begin, Billy, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Please rise if you can. Repeat after me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we begin hearings, we have one continuance that's going to be granted tonight. That is case Z25-17, First Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, Inc., owner of 400 College Avenue, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 2205-001910. And I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless somebody specifically requests that I do so. Ernie?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we received a letter from the applicant's counsel, Leonard Altieri, requesting a continuance of this evening's hearing to the June 5th meeting for purposes of allowing them to proceed before the Historical Committee as they are required. So we would move this to the June 5th meeting. In addition, the letter waives all applicable timeframes for under the planning code and also our ordinance up to including June 30th.
Okay. Any discussion?
What night is the Historical Commission meeting?
When is the meeting?
Yeah.
That I don't.
Okay.
All right. With that, unless there's an objection from any of the board members, we'll continue that case to our June 5th hearing. We have one continued case tonight, Z25-10, Jim Miller Holdings, owner of 2228 Haverford Road, Ardmore, PA, DC folio number 2206-0106701 and 22010702, to seek a variance from and a special exception from section 182-701H, 182-701H2D, 182-701H3 to permit the alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming freestanding sign where the zoning officer denied the permit request based upon the sections listed herein. Property zone R5 and located in the 6th Ward. We had already taken substantially all of the testimony in this case, and a request was made of the applicant to submit additional sign renderings or locations of signage. So that's what leads us back here, correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
May I hand out some new exhibit?
sure. And how do you have them?
This is marked as Exhibit A10. And for the record, this is Robert W. Scott, attorney ID number 59329.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
So if it's okay with the board, I was going to summarize the changes, and then I'd ask my client to just confirm that everything I said is accurate.
Okay,
At the last hearing, the board had requested that we come back with some revisions. To summarize, our prior request was for 4 wall signs with a total area of 139 square feet. I've just handed up Exhibit A10, and it is for 5 wall signs, but it reduces the total area to 80 square feet. So we're going down from 139.2 square feet to 80 square feet, which is a 43% reduction. And to walk through the revised sign renderings, there is a 28.4 square foot Jim Miller sign on the first page. There's a 24 square foot Wynwood Park Auto Repair sign. There's a 24 square foot combined Wynwood Auto Repair / Jim Miller sign. Recall there are 2 tenants of this property. And then there are 2.25 square feet directional signs, one for employee entrance, one for the main entrance. So we're going from, that totals 80 square feet.
What is the square footage of your current monumental, or the sign that stands on the pole at the corner?
I don't recall.
say it's 4 by 8, so 32 square foot.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Miller, would you confirm, you're still under oath, would you confirm that everything I just summarized is accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
For the record, could you go back through them briefly and just to say where they're located? Which face of the building, which road they face?
Okay, on first page, Carracung Drive.
This is the one facing, it's directly across from the bowling lanes.
Yes, and you can see it reflected in the,
Yeah.
yeah. On page 2, the Wynwood Park is Carracung, across from the bowling alley. The Wynwood Park combined, Jim Miller, is on Remington?
Haverford.
Haverford, I'm sorry. And then on page 3, there is an employee entrance sign,
Haverford Road.
Haverford Road, and there is a main entrance sign, which is on Carracung, across from the bowling alley.
Okay, Jesse, I think you were the one that had requested these, so do you have any other questions?
On the second page, the one that, on the right, that you indicated was Haverford, that's the one that, it's actually facing the residences there, is that right? It's Haverford, when I'm looking at this photo, I see the bowling alley in the
In the back.
in the
right?
distance, so that means Haverford is to my right, Carracung is in the foreground, in the distance. And behind me, when looking at this photo, would be the residential houses, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then if I go to the next page, the employee entrance for Jim Miller is to the left of that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the one for the other one is where?
The main entrance.
That's the main entrance for Wynwood Park Auto Repair.
I see. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Bill?
So maybe just to recap overall signage, right? So we have these 5 signs, and you've been bringing down the overall signage quite a bit. Are there any other signs, I'm trying to remember, that either face the apex of the corner on the front of the building, isn't there?
There is a pylon sign,
Pylon sign,
there
right,
is
at the apex.
correct? There's nothing else on the building apart from what we're asking for tonight.
Okay, so these 5 are the totality of the signs on the building.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ed? Jessica, anything else?
Questions?
Okay, I have no questions. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just what, you know, we had mentioned in a prior hearing that this is, while it's zoned R5, it is, and has been for decades, a commercial property, and it's bounded on both sides by commercial properties and the neighbor, and this is, the signage we're proposing is consistent with what is in the neighborhood.
Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
I'm not sure.
Pages 2 and 3 do not have lighting. Page 1, it's not clear to me.
Let me see. Yes, page 1 does have lighting. On the right, he has the little detail. But it's backlit, so it would sit in a, almost like an aluminum frame, and then there would be LED behind it that would shine down onto it.
Okay.
Yes, and that's the only one that I can see that is lit. Yes. That doesn't work, though.
Would there be times when at night we turn the sign off?
Yeah, it would be on a timer.
On time?
they
Do you
would
have a
all be on
sense,
timer.
is it generally on during like business hours or?
Yeah, business hours, and I'd say maybe, off from 8 PM till, 7 AM.
So it'll be on from 7 to 8?
Yes.
Good, Bill. Can I ask, Mr.
Go
Chairman?
ahead, Jess.
Would you accept a condition that no other signage in the glazed areas, other than, say, maybe hours of operation or open, close, you would put up no other signage than that?
So you wouldn't be posting anything in the windows?
Yeah, I would agree to that.
Okay, yeah, I see there's temporary signs, which is fine, I understand you need the temporary signs for now, but so we see, a lot of times we grant signage and then you go back, drive by a year later and the windows are filled with signage, which is actually supposed to count as the signage too, so, okay, we just want to put that condition on there.
I think if this is approved, it's sufficient.
You're well signed, yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township. With that, we'll close the record on this case. I don't think we'll be able to do a decision tonight, but if we do somehow wrap up early enough, a decision would be made either this evening or at our next regularly scheduled meeting on our next hearing.
May 15th.
Yeah, May 15th.
Okay, with that, I'd ask to be excused then.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
If there is a decision, I'll get you a letter tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Looking at the packet real quick, looks like this is going to be up over. So Justin and Sarah, before I formally call your case, come on up. So you guys had things attached to your packet. Pictures and plans, but they need to be identified. It's in your.
Ready for that?
Are you ready for it?
That's right. You can go through what you do.
I'll ask. Oh, this is where you at. They're stapled together. No. You can split whatever you want. But we're gonna keep it.
What was A7? And A5 and A6? A5 and A6 are just one page or multiple? 2 pages each?
120.
Yeah.
Can you step back? And I'll swear you in. All right. Our next case is Z25-16, Justin and Sarah Piff, owners of 512 Devon Road, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 2208-0022700, who seek a variance from section 182-206C6 to allow an addition in the side yard setback, leaving 6 feet 3 inches where 8 feet is required. Property is on R4 and located in the 8th Ward. So, Justin and Sarah, I presume.
Yes.
I need to swear you both in. Ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your full name and address, please, for the record. You can talk into the microphone.
Yep. Sarah Lindsay Piff, 512 Devon Road.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and address for the record?
Justin Piff, 512 Devon Road, Haverford Town.
Okay, and before I formally called your case, I had you up at the front table here just to go over the procedure, the process for identifying and marking exhibits. And Ernie was kind enough to help you mark with your exhibit marking. So now I'm going to ask you to please go through whatever exhibits, and you can always add to it, whatever exhibits you're going to submit to the board as part of your case presentation with the identification number. And usually it's A1, A stands for applicant, and then we just go numerically from there. So
Yes.
I know you have an A1.
A1
What
was
is that?
A1 is our deed.
Okay.
A2 is the architectural rendering.
Okay.
A3 is our plot plan. A4 is the impervious surface calculation.
Okay.
A5 is a photo from the front of the house.
Okay.
A6 is a side angle photo of the current porch structure. A7 is a set of nearby homes with side additions.
Okay.
I've also given you a map to where those homes are relative to our house. And A8 is a compilation of 18 neighbor letters in support of the variance.
Okay. Now that we got all that administrative aspect out of the way, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for your time today. Thanks for your service to the community. I know it's a lot of work to come out here every other Thursday. Sarah and I have lived in our home for just under 12 years. We're proud Havertonians, and we love our neighborhood, and we love our neighbors. We're seeking a variance to allow us to replace an existing enclosed porch. It has interchangeable screens and plexiglass windows with a 4-season sunroom addition that we can enjoy all year and in any weather. The current porch structure predates our home ownership and was an appealing feature when we purchased our home. Unfortunately, the structure has run its course, it's metal, the roof leaks, and our ability to enjoy it is limited to a handful of months a year, really dependent on the weather. The current structure sits on the back portion of a concrete slab that runs along the entire left side of our house. The slab is 10 feet 2 inches wide and about 24 feet from front to back. Due to the nature of our skewed property line, the front corner closest to the property line currently sits at 7 feet 3 inches from the property line. The rear corner is outside the setback at 8 feet 4 inches. We respectfully request the ability to replace the current porch with a single-story, 4-season sunroom on the full existing slab while extending it 12 inches wider. The new structure will come 6 feet 3 inches from the property line at the front and 7 feet 4 inches from the line at the back. The request for relief really balances our desire for functional living space while also taking into account the property's layout and the setback code. We believe the new room warrants approval for a few reasons, and I'm going to take a minute to walk through those. First of all, the irregular slant of our property line creates an unavoidable challenge in creating a uniform setback.
So, in other words, are you suggesting that your lot is odd shape?
It is. You can see on the plot plan that is Exhibit A3.
Three?
Is that A3?
Yes, A3 is your plot plan.
Yeah, A3, that on the left-hand side, we're kind of the keystone property on our block. And so that left-hand angle, it comes in relatively sharply. Getting closer to the house, the more to the front of the street you get.
So it's an irregularly shaped lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for
I
that.
didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yep. Second of all, the existing structure just is not designed to manage stormwater runoff. We've looked into having gutters placed on it. It's metal. It can't support proper gutters. And then there's an uncovered about 8 feet of the slab, which obviously also doesn't manage water. And this leads to pooling along the side of that structure, along the left side of our house when it rains, particularly when it rains strongly. We also believe that this is an aesthetic enhancement to our property. If you look at the architectural rendering, which I believe is A2, it looks pretty similar to the current structure, but it is a lot nicer as well. And lastly, we believe that given our proposed construction requires really pretty minor relief and utilizes the existing slab, we think the variance aligns with the spirit of the zoning code and allows us reasonable use of our property. Thank you.
Questions? Jesse?
Very good presentation, thank you. So you're not adding any impervious surface, is that right? Because you're building on the full concrete slab?
We're adding 12 inches off of the side. So we're widening the slab by 12 inches.
Okay. By, you said 24 feet?
Yeah, I measured it today. It's about 24 feet, 3 inches.
Okay, so you're adding roughly 24 square feet of impervious
Exactly.
coverage, okay.
Yep.
And I didn't see the calculations in the exhibit. Where are you at with your,
The calculations are there.
A4?
They're in A4.
oh, okay. Oh, it was at a second page, I see.
Point 12 on A4.
You're still well under your
Well under,
coverage?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I was getting at. You mentioned managing stormwater. That's always a condition that we impose on projects if there were to be approved. Would you agree to a condition that you'll manage stormwater so as not to adversely impact your neighbors?
Absolutely.
And how would you go about doing that?
So it'll happen a little bit naturally. We sit a bit lower than our neighbor on that side of the house, but we will direct, if not all, the majority of the gutters out towards the front of the home. We have probably about 15 feet of shrubs and mulch in that portion of the home, and so there's already a gutter there from the other portion of the house. We would route as much water as we could that way.
Okay.
In our ideal world too, we'll put a rain barrel.
Oh, great. Okay, good. And it looks like from the architectural rendering, you're going to use materials that are similar and complementary to your house. And do you think they're also, you mentioned it was going to enhance the aesthetics, and do you think it's in keeping within character of the neighborhood?
Yeah, we think it will enhance the look of the house and the block, yeah.
Okay. And you had a bunch of did you want to touch on your last exhibit that had the, or second to last exhibit that had the similar structures in your nearby neighborhood? Is there anything you wanted to talk about with that?
Yeah, I mean, we thought it would be helpful to just articulate that there's precedence for this in our neighborhood. I mean, it's pretty common challenge in
So
our
it's
section of
exhibit
the township.
A8.
7.
A7.
No.
A7,
Oh, A7, right.
yes, A7. And you can see they're of varying sizes. Yeah, they just provide, I think, a little bit more space for growing families, for entertaining, and so on.
It sounds like you have at least 18 people in support around you.
We do.
I think they're all looking forward to the open house.
And how about the one that, the neighbor that is most adjacent? Are they in support?
Her letter's in there. We separated out in that exhibit the 4 adjacent neighbors that show up on the plot plan. They're all on board, love their own sunrooms, and are really excited for us.
Thank you. No other questions?
Billy?
Hi, thanks. Just wanted to follow up on the plan to do gutters. So your house has gutters other than the current enclosed porch. And it sounded like you thought you would direct the water to the front of the property. So I'm looking at the photo, which is A6, which is a sort of angled side view of the existing porch. And you can see your radon vent and your downspout that's coming from the upper gutters just behind where it attaches to your house.
Yeah, apologies. That exhibit actually isn't labeled. Sorry, I don't think that was one of the 2 photos.
Oh, this was in our packet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is in your packet. We just didn't know if we need to refer to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me just, without regard to any visual aids. So any reason that, where does that downspout then go, the existing one that you have closest to your existing porch?
In that photo, you can see the end of it. It sticks out. It runs out
Okay,
this way.
so it comes out, so it's not tied into an underground line?
Oh, no,
And,
no.
and where does that, what is the direction that water is running? Is that towards your neighbor, towards the front? What is?
That's running towards the backyard. And just for clarity, none of the current gutters are running into any underground
Got it.
system. All of the water currently is running to shrubbery or existing plants. The
Okay.
same thing would be true for the proposed addition.
Okay. And so you would presume you would tie, 3 sides of three gutter runs into one downspout that would go towards the front of your house?
That's a good question. We're going to do a hip roof, so there will be 3 sides. We talked to our contractor about wanting to divert as much water as we could, just because our property slants this way towards the street.
So it slopes downward toward the front of your house?
Yes,
Correct.
yes. And so just the idea of putting it into the backyard to slope more towards the house obviously doesn't really make sense. So as much water as we can, which I would assume would be the front and the side at minimum, would come out to the front where that current gutter also comes. The back, I don't know engineering wise how that gets handled. But if it's doable, I think we could send that to the front as well.
And then you're going to integrate the siding, the facade of this with the rest of the house. Is that the plan?
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Ed?
Yes, the question that stands out to me right away is, why do you have to make it bigger?
2 reasons. One is just functionally, it's a pretty narrow room with the slab at 10 feet 2. We're going to lose roughly 6 or so inches due to framing and drywall. I don't think, admittedly, even what we want is where we would be if we were starting from scratch. So the additional foot really just makes a big difference to us in terms of living space and navigability. Sarah's dad's in a wheelchair. We use that space a lot. It's just like every inch kind of matters out there. The other reason is we need to put 4 footers along the outside, and so this will allow us to pour the footers, put the concrete over the footers, and then tie in the new concrete into the existing slab. So it's sort of structural and functional.
But you have a functional porch as it is. What is the hardship that makes you need to have it?
Well, it's a fair question. I think it's a big investment, and the difference for us of the foot is, I think, pretty significant, while being negligible for anybody else not experiencing that room. And it's still a really small room. And we really didn't want to push the limits of the code. And this felt like really a way to honor the code, while still just really giving us the relief that we think we need to make it really a usable living space.
Okay. What utilities are on the existing porch?
On the existing porch, electric.
Electric for just the lights?
There's lights and outlet. Yeah, not much electric.
You're not proposing any running water or any heating to be in this new one?
With the new structure, we do not have central air in our home. The new structure is proposed to have a mini split. So we'd put a mini split in that room. And then there is also a proposal, and you'll see it in the plan, for a fireplace that sits on the interior wall where currently a window is, that it shares the wall with our living room. So the idea is we'd put a gas fireplace literally in that wall between the two structures, which is currently an exterior wall.
But there's no, you cannot change this into full-time living space? It'd always be a porch?
Oh, well, it would be full-time living space. That's what we're looking to do to it. Yeah.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Yeah, so,
Jessica?
and maybe I should clarify, so when we said four-season sunroom, it would be heated, it would be cooled, but you can see in the rendering, it would be largely windows from about here up, so that it really still functions like a sunroom.
Jess?
You testified that your lot has one irregular side that's at an angle. Is your lot otherwise non-conforming in terms of size or front yard width?
Not that we're aware of. I mean, it fits pretty, I think we're pretty, our house sits back perhaps even a little bit farther than it needs to. I think it's right up against the required setback
So
on the other sides.
your lot meets the minimum requirements for a lot of that district.
And if you don't know,
I don't know. Yeah.
From the front of the property to the house, it's 41 feet 7 inches. So it sits a little further back. I think that's a 25 setback right in it.
But I guess my question is more, you testified you have one side that's irregular. Sometimes when we see that, a lot is smaller than the required lot size in that district. So
We wouldn't know.
you
I
don't
don't know what the
Okay.
required lot size is.
Yeah, we haven't been told that. I think it's clear to us that we're losing width on the plot the closer you get to the front of the property.
I would just indicate, if I may interrupt, and I apologize, looking at Exhibit A3, which is the plot plan, under the general note specifically regard to zoning classified in the R4, minimum lot size is 6,000 feet. Current lot size is 6,145 square feet, so they're over the minimum lot size.
Thank you. And then my next question is, Exhibit A7 is pictures of side additions on neighboring properties that you're using as examples of similar things. Do you know what their setbacks are from their property lines?
In terms of the additions,
Yes.
I feel like that's not something I should touch. I haven't measured them. I think probably some of them are in compliance and some of them are out of compliance.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I don't have any other questions.
okay. And so you're going to use this as living space, four-season living space. Is it just the two of you, or do you have children?
Two of us.
It's two of us. And a very popular dog in the neighborhood. And you laugh. You think I'm kidding.
I'm not. I'm laughing because my son has me dog sitting. Okay, any other questions? Jesse? Bill? Ed?
No other questions.
Jessica? Anything else you guys would like to add?
Are there any loose ends that, or any considerations we should be thinking about or that you're thinking about that we can address?
Trying to flip the script on me?
Only suggestion I would have is to make sure that you, I'm assuming you want your exhibits made part of the record.
I was going to do that last.
Yes.
So you want them admitted? They're admitted.
Yes, please.
Okay. With that, now I'll go to the audience. We'll see if anyone's here about this case. Is there anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify? Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents? Oh, please come forward. Regular mail? Let's come on up one at a time. Ladies first. Hello, please raise your
Hello.
right hand.
My name is Suzanne Jones, and I live
need to
across
sw-
the street
I need
from,
to swear you in, Suzanne. Please
sorry?
raise your right hand.
oh, sorry,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And now please give us your full name and address.
Suzanne Jones, 513 Devon Road in Haverford Town.
And what would you like to tell us,
I
Suzanne?
just want to tell you that the PIFs, I'd be very happy if you would let them have this new addition, because what they have now looks like a really bad shed. We'd really appreciate it. Our block is destroyed by this.
Okay, any questions for
That's it.
Suzanne? Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Suzanne.
Oh, no.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Brian Jones, 513 Devon Road. I live with the tall lady.
And what would you like to tell us, Brian?
I don't want to badmouth our existing structure because they've already done so sufficiently. I think it would improve the look of the neighborhood.
So you're in favor?
Say what?
Just to be clear, you're in favor of the proposal?
Excellent deduction, yes.
I just wanted to be clear on the record. Any questions for Brian? Jess, Bill, Ed, Jess?
No question.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody else? Regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Come on up. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. I
And
do.
your full name and address, please?
Virginia Legans, 508 Devon Road. I'm really in favor of what they're doing. I think it will enhance the neighborhood.
Okay. I need,
Virginia, what was it?
I didn't get your name. I'm sorry. Yeah,
We couldn't hear it.
Virginia Legans, Leagans.
okay. Anyone else? Ladies first. Then you come up. Hello, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Terry Cohen, 514 Devon Road, Havertown, PA.
What would you like to tell us,
I would
Terry?
like to say that I am fully in support of this addition. It will enhance the neighborhood and it will enhance their house.
Okay. Any questions for Terry? Bill?
No.
Ed? Jess?
No question.
Thanks, Terry. Come on. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Full name and address, please?
Anthony Coulter, Coulter, 516 Cumberland Road. We live right behind the Pips.
What would you like to tell us, Anthony?
I think it is a beautiful enhancement to an already lovely house. And the numbers and setbacks, I'm not aware of, but it doesn't seem to be too great an infringement on other people's land.
Jess, questions? No questions. Bill?
No questions, thank you.
Ed? No question. Jessica? Okay, thank you, Anthony. Anyone else? Going once, going twice? With that, we'll close the record on this case and a decision will be rendered possibly this evening, depending how long one of our cases goes, but more likely at our next regularly scheduled meeting on May 15th. That's it. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Jeff, we'll go off the record.
We're good.
All right. Our next case is Z25-18, Valerie and John Mateo, owners of 400 Brentwood Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2202-0005300, to seek a variance from section 182-206C7 to permit the construction of an attached deck in the rear yard setback. Property is located 12.61 feet from the rear property line where 25 feet is required. Zone R4 and located in the 8th Ward. John and Valerie, come on up. Hello.
Good evening.
Ladies first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Valerie Mateo, 400 Brentwood Road here in Havertown.
Now, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address?
Jonathan Mateo, 400 Brentwood Road.
Okay. And contractor, are you going to testify?
Yeah, if they need help, or should I?
I'll swear you just in
Okay.
case. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and company name, the capacity at which you appear?
Stephen Martin with Keystone Custom Decks.
Okay. And who's going to be the primary presenter? He's holding the paper.
This beautiful lady's going to run the
Okay.
show.
So we took a break. Ernie, was kind enough to help you guys pre-mark some of your exhibits. So the first order of business should be to go through and identify them as they're marked in the, A sequence. So A1,
Yeah, I can do that, and then
Okay.
she'll take over from there. I'm her assistant. I just pay the bills. So A1 is the deed.
okay?
A2 is a side picture from Devon Road of the deck that we're proposing. A3 is another picture of the deck on an angle from Devon Road. A4 is another picture of the deck on a different angle from Devon Road. A5 has another picture of the deck. I'm going to speed along. They're all very similar. A6 is an aerial shot of the deck and the proposed patio. A7 is a picture of the existing, the way the house currently sits. A8 is a picture of the side yard, current state. A9, we on 9? We're on
Yes.
9. A9 is a picture of the backyard. A10 is an aerial shot of the side yard. A11 is a plot plan or plan of the land. And then 12 is another dimension shot of the proposed deck, patio, and walkway. And then there's a zoning map of A13.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Okay, so I'm going to read because I'm a little nervous and I don't want to forget anything.
We're not an intimidating bunch.
No, you've been very gracious. Okay, so we are here to request that you reconsider the denial of our permit application to build a deck on our property. We understand the board's responsibility to uphold zoning regulations and appreciate the careful consideration you give each case. We would like to briefly explain why we believe this project merits approval and address the concerns that led to the original denial. First, it should be noted that we've recently built an addition to our home. At that time, we were under the impression that a deck was included in the original plan and no separate permit would be required. In fact, a header for a future deck was installed by our contractor. After a long year of work in our home, which is still not complete, we decided that we would seek a different company to build our deck. And after finding Keystone Custom Decks and signing on to work with them, they informed us we would need to pull a new permit for the project. So here we are. We'd like to point out that the proposed deck would create a safe, functional outdoor space for our family. And the structure in question would also provide the only safe means of egress from the sliding doors in our new family room. These doors currently lead to a 6-foot drop to the ground below. Additionally, the placement of the deck is the only usable yard space that we have, as our property is irregular in shape. It is a corner lot and it has significant sloping directly behind the house, making it difficult to follow the ordinance as it demands. We've also spoken with several of our immediate neighbors, and they have expressed support of our project, and we do have a signed petition for your review. Do we have that?
Yeah, we did not submit that as an exhibit. I totally forgot, if that's okay.
We can add it as exhibit A13.
Okay. We're committed to maintaining, oh, I'm sorry.
13 was the,
I think it's A14. Yeah, I think it would be 14.
do that now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just want to identify the record. It's a petition listing 14 neighbors. Doing all in favor of the application?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you done, Valerie?
No, I just have, well, I have like one little last thing to
Okay.
say.
Take your time.
We are committed to maintaining the aesthetics of our neighborhood. We recognize that zoning variances are granted only under specific circumstances, and we believe our situation qualifies because of the aforementioned hardships of irregular lot shape and the significant grade behind the house. In conclusion, we respectfully ask for your approval so that we may improve the usability of our home in a way that is both reasonable and respectful of zoning standards and community values. Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Jessica?
So just to clarify what you said in your opening statement, when you came before the board last year to ask for a variance for the addition, the deck was not on the plan, but you didn't realize it wasn't on the plan?
So through negotiation with our contractor, it was talked through that we would eventually talk about financials. So it was always part of the discussion that we would build a deck. Inexperienced at that time, I've learned a lot in 12 months. I didn't know what I didn't know. I feel feelings. I could be a general contractor at this point with what we've went through. So yes, it was an overlook just being inexperienced homeowners.
So what was your plan for the sliding doors, being that you weren't initially going to build the deck?
No,
We always planned on building a
thought there
deck.
would be a deck.
We were told by our contractor that it was part of the permit he submitted and that we didn't need to worry about it. He put the header on. It was planned that he was to build it. And then after 15 months of what we're currently still going through, we decided to seek different contractor to help build the deck. And at that point, that's when Keystone said, no, what you have, you need another permit. So we hire these individuals because I'm not a professional in the field. Just like if I needed to hire a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not certified, I would seek that counsel. And that's really what we did. So we were misguided, and that's why we're here to ask for the approval of the deck.
Have you considered doing just a patio on grade with the allowable landing and stairs that you would be able to have at that exit door?
We did. We do feel that it adds a better aesthetic to the property and adds more outdoor living space. It being 6 feet, I feel the steps and the sliding doors already there. It just would be a steep staircase for our children that are 4, 2, and 1 and 1.
But it's a steep staircase anyway.
It's less of a
Correct.
staircase, in my opinion.
Well,
You have more space to walk down the
It's not going to be
steps.
immediately outside the door. It's kind of like off the side of the deck.
Jonathan, for the landing that they'd be allowed to put in front of the door, how large would that be before they get to the stairs? My understanding is they're allowed to put a landing in front of that door, correct? And stairs down to exit?
I think the question is being posed as potential alternative rather than the deck itself. Could there be a landing and stairs? Is that right?
Correct.
Knowing that.
Because I
there's
thought that
also-
was allowed into the setback.
I'm sorry, it would be allowed to have a landing and then stairs down to a patio. It would be like maybe 3 or 4 feet would be permissible for a landing before you went downstairs without having to seek a variance. I think it would also affect the it would impact slightly the variance that they're looking for, but
But would that be by right?
So could I add just one other thing, the purpose of the deck? Being a corner lot, I do feel that should not be treated like the other properties, just the way our house sits on the lot. The reason for the deck is I can't fit a shed anywhere to stay in code. So the deck was going to actually add storage underneath, and that was the other value of adding a deck, is to create storage space without putting a deck too close to any of the property lines. Being a corner lot, it's impossible to add any type of outdoor storage.
But you, last year, almost doubled the size of your house with an addition that you got a variance for, correct? So this
Absolutely.
is a self-created hardship.
Sorry, what was that?
A self-created hardship?
Adding the deck is a self-created hardship?
Yes,
Okay.
for not
So
having space for a shed.
Well,
where would I have put the shed if the addition wasn't there, though? Anywhere I looked, it was the same.
Where the addition is.
we needed more house.
I understand that, but I'm saying you have created this issue for yourself by putting the addition on, correct?
You could say that, sure.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Ed?
Yeah, we're looking at the deck, and how high is it from ground elevation to the bottom of the deck?
I believe it's 6 feet.
Roughly, maybe.
You couldn't use it for living space because it'd have to be at least 7 foot. You're just talking about storage.
Yeah, lawnmower, outdoor equipment, gas-powered things.
And the door that I see in the one photograph, where does that go to? What is going inside?
The exterior door goes to a basement.
What what is it? Is it a finished basement? Is it a laundry room? Or what?
It will be finished space
Yeah,
eventually.
it'll eventually be finished space.
Okay. I have no other.
Bill?
Yeah, just looking at, I think it's A3, which is a angled side view of the deck, which may be what the picture that Mr. McGarty was just talking about. Underneath the deck, we see what I think is a tan colored door that's ajar in rendering.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And so, so the egress from the basement will not be enclosed under the patio.
No,
The
no.
the enclosure is just to the side of that.
Just to create that storage
So-
under the deck. Yep.
So if you're storing, and what would be the cover of the ground under that? Is that going to be?
It's gravel.
Gravel.
Yep.
Okay, so you're not going to finish the floor
No,
under the.
no.
And so that's where you're going to store whatever.
Bikes,
A lawnmower.
Lawnmower,
Some
equipment.
of my neighbors are here. They know how often I'm out doing my lawn, so I need the space for it. Yep.
And what I was trying to make sure is that use of that space wasn't actually going to impede the egress from that basement door.
No,
No.
no.
You can't really tell, but the basement door is actually lower. It kind of,
Slightly.
yeah,
But yeah,
Yep.
it wraps the
it wraps
door.
around
So you-
the entryway to the basement.
Yep. And so we can see from this same rendering the depicted slope of the property from front to back. Is that a fair rendering of the elevation change?
It's
think
pretty
it's-
fair. It's in the ballpark.
The stepping stones?
Don't talk over one another. The reporter needs to take down everything you guys say.
Yeah, so I'm just on the side of the house there where it shows the grade of the slope declining from front of your house. This is the back of your house we're looking at.
Correct, back corner, yep.
And so essentially what's happening is between the front of the house and the back of the house, you're losing the height of that rear door. Is that fair?
You could, yeah.
And so on the next page, which would be a 4, I guess, we see the staircase now that otherwise you could have done perhaps by right, which shows roughly 8 steps down, 9 steps down. And onto new pavers, right? And that is, that's been included in your impervious calculations?
Correct.
And so was the square footage of the deck and this paved patio included in the impervious calculations in your prior application? I'm trying to figure out how far your architect took you down the road, or your contractor, without sort of,
Right.
because I don't remember us saying you can't have a deck. I just don't think it was part of the application.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was very vague. We were really chasing after the price. In hindsight, that wasn't the right move.
Yeah.
And that's when Keystone came with a very great presentation. They'd process. I'm very process oriented. It's what I do for a living. So we went with them after some financial shifts allowed us to.
All right, and then on the next page, the fifth photo, which I guess is A6. Here's another image or rendering where it looks like that door I asked you about before, looks like it's flush with the outer side of the porch. This is why I wasn't sure where this door is really going.
Yeah.
Right? And it looked like here, it would look like it's impeding your egress. So is this wrong and the other one's right?
No. So if we were to position ourselves to be facing the back of the house, that door swinging open, directly after that door is a way to get to the basement. So they're just directly next to each other.
Okay, I thought that from A3, it was inset that the,
Yeah, so the door's slightly under the deck. As you move under the deck, I don't know, I think it's 2 feet. The basement door is on the wall. And then I think it's 4 feet from the walkway to get to the deck where those stepping stones are. The door to the under the deck starts.
so let's just, okay, and that it may well just be that it's the size of the door that, so on your aerial view, which was your overhead drawing on A12, the depth of this deck is
12 feet.
12 feet. And so is that a 6 foot wide door? Is that why it sticks out? And
I don't know if we have the exact dimensions of you're referring to the door, under the deck?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out the relationship between the egress door, which you suggested is a health or safety question.
Yeah,
Understood.
sure.
And is a manner of egress out of the basement, perhaps the only direct one. And that, as depicted on A3, the storage door wasn't going to impede on that. But when I look at A12 and some of the other renderings, it does suggest that it is going to impede.
Can I say something?
You got to come up to the microphone so people can hear you. You remember you're on TV, so.
Okay, yeah. So there's a slanted line, so you can see where the steps.
What exhibit are you on?
A12.
Okay.
It's a faint outline of this, like where the steps are going down to the entrance into the house. And then you have an angled line coming out where the 6 foot 5 inches comes through. That's the door going under the deck. So when they swing it open, it can't go past the concrete wall that is around the steps going down to the basement.
Yeah, so, again, the rendering on A3 would suggest that this door would completely enclose that side of the storage area. Right, but, so it doesn't look like on A12 that this can be drawn to scale to fit a door in. There's only a 2 foot wide separation between the outer wall of the house and the side wall of the shed.
Well, from the side of the house to where the door starts is 6 foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is we're talking about the door to the basement?
Yeah.
6 feet?
No, it's 36 inches. So there's a 36-inch landing to support your ability to walk into the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And then directly after that 36 inches, that's where that under the deck door would open. And I agree that to scale, it looks a little awkward, but I'm confident that what we've talked through with the contractor, that it's going to be okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to use it. It seems kind of silly to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not an architect. We have other ones on the board. They're better with depictions and numbers.
Is that it, Bill?
Yeah.
Jessica?
So I totally see the design, the intent, what you're going for, and you obviously already have the sliding doors already installed, the ledger's already installed. I completely understand the position you're in. So we have to, as you know, we have to look at, is this the minimum relief that you need? Have you, and I know it would cut down on your patio, but have you considered sliding the deck over so that you're asking for less deck that's into the setback?
So portion of why we chose where it was to try to deter water piling up in front of the door. So we wanted to cover the door to have almost like an entryway of rainwater.
I'm sorry, which door are we talking about?
Of the egress to the basement.
Okay. I didn't really follow what you were trying to prevent, like leaves and things from falling in there.
Just rainwater building
Oh,
up
rainwater.
in front of the
I'm
door. Sorry, am I close enough to that?
Yeah. Okay, I got it. So I'm referring to A11. There's some portions of the deck that you could build by right, right? The patio is completely by right. And I guess if you hadn't already had the sliding doors where they are, you could mirror this entire thing and actually comply, right? Is that fair to say? Okay.
Exactly.
But the situation you're in is that the doors are installed. You need some safe manner of getting out of them. You already have the ledger installed, and that's why you're asking for this amount of relief. Is that
You're
correct?
spot on.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And then the enclosure, could you describe the construction of the enclosure?
So the structure of the enclosure is using the same Teco board, I think is the material. So it's a composite plastic material that they're going to space properly so airflow can come through and essentially box the bottom part of the deck for aesthetics and again, that storage space that we struggle with today.
Okay. So it's not weather tight.
No, it's not weather tight, but again, it's just lawnmowers and outdoor equipment that, are okay with the elements.
Okay, I understand. I don't have any other questions.
What are the dimensions of this deck that you're proposing?
I believe it's 12 by 16.
And so you'll have a table out there with chairs, right?
We're going to host our neighbors, and you have an invitation if you want to come hang out.
But you have 4 children.
We have 4 children, correct?
So they'll need a little mini table.
Mini table, that's right.
And chairs, right?
Lots of chairs.
Any other questions, Bill? Nope. Jesse?
The utilities, what utilities would be on the deck?
It's only low voltage to create lighting for the stairs and each pillar on the deck.
Okay. And you already, I assume, looks like you already have provisions in for lighting on the addition?
Correct.
Okay. And so there's no other than the electric, there's no other permanent?
Nope, there's a GFI by the basement door by code, but that's the only other.
So just electric, you're not running plumbing out there?
No.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Okay, no other question.
And it's not going to be covered?
The deck?
Yes.
No.
No.
Ed, any other question?
No other.
Jessica? Nope. Okay. Anything else you guys would like to add?
Other than I appreciate your time and consideration.
Yes, thank you.
It has been a long journey for us, and boy, would I've done things a little bit differently 15 months ago, but I appreciate all of your time. I understand some of you are volunteers, so thank you for taking the time to keep our community aesthetically pleasing and to the code.
Well, thank you. Thank you for thanking us.
You're welcome.
All right. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Anyone present that received regular? There you go. Come on up. It doesn't matter. Next is whoever. So, mail, no mail? One more after. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Avian Lusto, Avian Lou, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, AU.
I'm pretty good with this. I would never have gotten your last
Nobody,
name.
nobody does.
And what's your address, Avian?
409 Devon Road in Haverford Town, right across the street from them.
And what would you like to tell us?
Just here in support of them. They're great neighbors. They keep their yard immaculate. Their house is gorgeous. Their yard's gorgeous. I've no concerns as a neighbor about the deck or what they're going to be doing on the deck, throwing parties. Well,
I'm going to have to inspect that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, just in support of them and completely fine with what they're proposing.
Okay. Any questions for Avian? Jesse, Bill?
Oh, so on A11, well, are you directly across Devon Road, you said?
I'm across Devon, yes.
And so you'll have full sight of the deck?
We are the house that would be looking at the deck, yeah.
Okay. And again, you're in full support?
Full support.
Okay, thank you.
Bill?
No questions.
Ed?
I have no question.
Jess? Okay, thank you, Avian.
Thanks, guys.
Anyone else that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? And you said you have one more?
I had one more question for you guys.
Okay. John and Valerie?
Sure.
So I'm going to refer back to A11, and there's a dimension in red that says 12.61 feet, and it goes from the property line to the corner of the proposed deck. Is that roughly the same dimension as exists to the corner of the existing basement stairs that are depicted in blue? There's no dimension, but is it roughly the same?
I'm not sure I follow.
He's talking about this measurement. Is this about the same as?
Like if you turn that.
Oh, I see.
That line.
Yeah. Yep.
Vertically.
So from the corner of the deck to the fence is more space than from the corner of the house to the fence, if that's what you're referring to.
I'm just looking to see, are you making it any worse than it already is?
No, we're staying within the frame of the house by, I think it's 2.5 feet or 3 feet.
I don't have any other questions. That was
Okay.
Okay. Wait, Ed?
Yes. Would you accept a condition if it were to be approved that you would not put a roof or enclose the deck?
Absolutely. No plans and would definitely support that.
And that means never, ever, ever.
Never, ever, ever.
Thank you.
Yep.
What about an umbrella? Is that fine?
Jess? Nothing? Okay. Anything else before I wrap it up? All right, with that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on May 15th. If we have time tonight, which is highly doubtful, we'll try to do it tonight, but I'm going to announce the decision as tonight in the alternative, May 15th. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Have a good night.
You too.
So, you guys are up. You guys want to take, we'll go off the record. You guys can come set up your stuff. All right, our next case is Z2519, Sproul Development Partners, LLC, owners of 1039 Sproul Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2204-0066100, to seek a variance from section 154A5 to permit a maximum of 15.5% of very steep slope area where a maximum of 5% is permitted. A variance from section 182-720C3A to permit cut and fill within very steep slopes. A variance from section 182-727B to extend a retaining wall across division or boundary lines. A variance from section 182-727C1 to permit a retaining wall in the front yard with a maximum height of 7 feet where a maximum of 30 inches is permitted. A variance from section 182-720C1 to permit sanitary sewer and stormwater management facilities within very steep slopes, and a variance from section 182-715 to allow the proposed building setbacks for each single-family home as shown on the zoning plan, which comply with the R1A district regulations rather than adhering to the median setback lines of existing structures within 300 feet on the same side of the street, and a special exception from section 182-720C5B to allow the installation of sanitary sewer facilities within the steep slope, and a special exception from section 182-720C5C to allow the installation of access driveways for single-family detached dwellings within steep slopes. Property is zoned R1A and located in the 4th Ward. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the Zoning Hearing Board. My name is Cameron Wolfson from Riley, Riper, Holland, and Colagreco. We are attorneys for the applicant. With me tonight, who I intend to introduce as witnesses for the hearing, is Paul Bloomfield to my right, the applicant's representative, and John Anderson from Cornerstone Engineering, the civil engineer for the project. Before we begin, I'm going to hand out some pre-marked exhibit packets for the hearing and provide just a brief summary if that's okay for the board.
Yes. I'll tell you what.
So just procedurally, I'll mention the first two exhibits and then the rest we'll introduce throughout the witness testimony.
Okay.
Exhibit A1 is the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board application, as well as some of the materials that were submitted along with that, including the narrative, zoning exhibit plan prepared by Cornerstone Consulting Engineers and Design Services, Inc., dated April 8th, 2025, and a cover letter from Deborah A. Shulsky, Esquire, dated April 8th, 2025. And Exhibit 2 is just the Haverford Township Zoning Ordinance of 1974 and the Slope Control Ordinance of 1988 as amended, which we have incorporated by reference as it would take up all the trees in Haverford. So the rest, as I mentioned, we will introduce through our witness testimony. So the property that is the subject of tonight's hearing is located at 1039 Sproul Road. It's southeast of the intersection of Darby Road and Sproul Road. And it's situated within the R1A low-density residential zoning district. The applicant proposes to subdivide the property into 4 lots, each of which would be served by a shared internal access drive and developed with a single-family detached dwelling on each lot. As you are aware, the proposed development requires 6 variances and 2 special exceptions. However, I would like to inform the board that since the initial submission of our zoning hearing board application, the plan has been revised in response to comments received during the township's land development and subdivision review process. Accordingly, we have updated the zoning plan that accompanied our application, and the revised plan has been submitted as an exhibit for tonight's hearing. As a result of these revisions, the requested variance from section 154A-5 concerning the disturbance to very steep slopes has slightly increased from a maximum of 15.5% to 22.3%, which would allow for an additional. Absolutely. So we're asking for an increase from the maximum of 15.5% to 22.3%, and that's actually the additional 46 square feet, which is, equates to about 7% more, but it's only 46 additional square feet. Although the proposed lots and the homes do fully comply with the area and bulk requirements of the R1A district, the need for nearly all of the requested relief stems from the presence of steep and very steep slopes on the property. Specifically, we are seeking relief related to those slopes to allow for the installation of necessary sanitary, sewer, and stormwater management facilities, as well as to provide for a safe and compliant access drive to the site. The existing access point does not meet PennDOT site distance standards and is currently non-conforming. Our proposal includes improvements that will bring the site access into compliance and enhance the safety for vehicles and emergency vehicles entering and exiting the property. Relief is also being sought for the construction of a retaining wall that will ensure the homes can be safely built given the topography of the site. The only requested relief that is not related to the slopes on the property concerns the requirement that the lots must conform with the median setback of existing structures within 300 feet on the same side of the street. Given the size of the property and the nature of the proposed subdivision, we believe that applying the median setback requirement is not appropriate or practical in this context. The setbacks proposed exceed the median setback of the existing structures and provide ample distance to maintain the character of the neighborhood. You will hear testimony this evening demonstrating that the relief we are requesting is necessitated by the unique physical circumstances and conditions of the property. And without such relief, the project would not be constructed. The development has been thoughtfully designed to respect the character of the surrounding neighborhood, and it will not adversely affect the neighboring properties or alter the essential character of the surrounding area. Finally, we believe that this project represents a significant improvement to a currently vacant parcel, and if approved, it would result in the construction of high-quality homes that will enhance both the property itself and the surrounding community. Without further ado, we'll call our first witness. I don't know if you'd prefer to swear them in at one, together or separately, but.
I'll do it one at a time.
Paul.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
My name is Paul Bloomfield. I live at 884 Briarwood Road. My capacity here, I'm the owner of the property.
What's your address again, Paul?
884 Briarwood Road, Newtown Square.
my neck of the woods. Go ahead, Cameron.
Paul, can you please provide the board with your affiliation with the applicant Sproul Development Partners LLC?
Yeah, so I'm one of the two partners that formed the LLC for the purposes of developing this project.
And are you authorized to appear and make representations at tonight's hearing on
Yes.
behalf of the applicant?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe your background in development, including any projects that you've worked on in this area?
I've lived in this area for 30 years. I've been an architect for the past 25 or so, and I've been involved in hundreds of residential remodeling projects, additions and remodeling. And in the past 5 years or so, I've also been doing development of projects for my own purposes.
Is Exhibit A3 a copy of the deed to 1039 Sproul Road recorded in the Office of the Delaware County Recorder of Deeds in Deed Book 6883, page 5555, evidencing the applicant is the owner of the subject property?
Yes.
Directing the board's attention to Exhibit A4, the aerial photograph of 1039 Sproul Road, which we have on the screen for you. Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe the mouse.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry?
There we go.
Okay.
Can you please identify the location of the subject property and describe the general character of the surrounding area?
Yes, so this is the property. It's about roughly 3 acres, located southeast of the intersection of Darby Road and Sproul. It currently has houses surrounding it on all, behind and on left and right, individual family homes.
And was the property formerly used as a single-family detached dwelling, and has that recently been demolished?
Yes, this was a single-family home on the center of the site that's been abandoned for, I think, at least 20 years, and we recently demolished the property.
Did you direct Cornerstone Consulting to prepare the zoning exhibit plan dated April 8th, 2025, and last revised May 1st, 2025, which is included within Exhibit A5?
Yes.
Which you can turn to on the page. So referring to Exhibit A5, can you please provide just a general description of the proposed development for the property?
So the purpose of the subdivision is to create 4 new building lots that each would have one single-family home. We've also laid it out with one shared access drive rather than having individual access points along Sproul Road.
And can you just briefly describe the type of home that you're proposing to develop?
Yeah, so these would be 2-story homes with attached 2-car garages, somewhere around 4,000 square feet, and nice quality homes, large spaces, high ceilings, and lots of light, natural windows, natural light.
And is the proposed use and type of home planned for the property consistent with the surrounding residential character of the neighborhood?
Yes.
Did the applicant submit the subdivision and land development application associated with this project to the township on January 2nd, 2025? And is that application currently under review by the township?
Yes, it is.
Did you attend the planning commission meeting on February 13th, 2025 to review the subdivision and land development application?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to discuss the proposed project with some of your neighbors at that meeting?
Yeah, quite a few were there, and we were able to talk with them directly, yes.
And as a result of those discussions, as well as any input from the planning commission, did you agree to make certain modifications to the plan?
Yes, we did.
And would you like to just briefly just mention some things that were changed?
Specifically, the neighbor to the southeast has a swimming pool that's fairly close to the property line and was concerned about the stormwater management system that's proposed in that location, and we're able to move that closer to Sproul Road to alleviate any conflict with his property there. And I think another neighbor was asking about the driveway turnaround to the left as you enter the site, and we may not need to have that at all. We may just keep things as they are to the left of the driveway.
Excellent. That's all the questions I have for Paul. If you have any questions for him specifically, feel free to ask me.
Stay up here, Paul. Any questions? Jesse?
I didn't understand could you describe the last statement in more detail and something about the turnaround?
The driveway, so the driveway is shown at the far left there on this plan, and we were initially including a little parking area there in case somebody's handling a lawn service or something like that, or a delivery wanted a place to turn around, or somebody entered the property by mistake. It seems unnecessary given the further comments and review we've been doing. We've got enough width that an Amazon driver or somebody would be able to come all the way up and turn around at the top, where they were actually needed. So we may not have a requirement for that overflow turnaround, so we may just delete that.
Is there provisions, I assume there'll be some kind of common agreement amongst the shared driveway to, for things like snow removal? Was that a yes? Yeah.
Correct, we would have some sort of an agreement, yes.
Okay. And then is there room to add, to move snow off the road? I wondered if that was what that was for, but.
Yeah, there's room to either side of the proposed driveway. The existing driveway is roughly in this location. We're proposing some changes to the grading of it, also widening it, straightening it up a little bit with respect to Sproul Road to meet some of the requirements from PennDOT and so forth. But essentially, it's maintaining the general layout that it has now. And there's adequate room on either side for snow removal.
And the existing home, was it roughly in the center of the four proposed?
Yes, I'm sure we have, it was shown on the aerial.
Which the recently demolished home.
Okay.
Yes.
No other questions at this time.
Bill?
So, when did you demolish the existing home?
I think it's probably been 6 or 8 months now.
6 or 8 months. And had you left that home there, you could have replaced it on its footprint and been grandfathered in and not needed any variances?
Correct.
And so
we're seeking to subdivide the property
right,
to
and
make multiple parcels.
I understand you're increasing density and you're going to be bringing more traffic into a relatively dangerous road. So what was the thinking that you needed to put 8,000 square feet of homes instead of just leaving one home there and rebuilding that and selling it?
The home that was there was not worth saving. It had been abandoned for many years. So
I understood.
Even the footprint would have to, the home would have had to been removed and rebuilt in a similar vein. The opportunity to subdivide this is obviously a financial motive for us to put 4 units here instead of 1. And I don't know that we would have benefited from rebuilding a single home on this plot. So,
if I can add to that as well, I know our next witness will touch on this, but for the essentially our disturbance, the relief that we're requesting for the site access, that would have to be brought up to PennDOT requirements if they were going to reconstruct a home as well, and the utility structures that are proposed, the very steep slopes, also would have to be disturbed if a new home was replacing a single-family home. So it would essentially probably be the same relief whether they were, repurposing the single-family home or subdividing the lot.
All right, but you're not testifying as an engineer or expert.
That's correct. Our next witness will do that, so he's happy to answer any questions.
So, again, if you had to do something about the entrance to accommodate PennDOT, that's one of your variances. But instead, you're asking for multiple variances, which is all largely derived by financial incentives for you to divide this property, subdivide it from 1 house to 4. Is that fair? I mean, I'm trying.
as I understand it, the PennDOT requirements for 1 house or 4 are going to be very similar.
Right.
Almost all of these variances with respect to the very steep slopes are in an effort to create a proper sight line to make this access to this site safe and more functional for people accessing the site and also people just driving past.
I don't understand that one. So, your sight lines for who? People driving on?
I know that we have
Street
exhibits, but specifically when you're entering or exiting, when you're exiting the site, they have a dimension left and right that they require being able to see clearly with the oncoming traffic. That works both ways. The oncoming traffic can see that there's a party trying to enter or leave the site as well. So right now, a car driving along Sproul Road, everybody here knows this curve. The vegetation is very close, the hill is very close, there's really no visibility around that corner. And so we're seeking to improve that visibility. Regardless if this is 1 house or 4, if this was 1 large house, it would be a substantial house, there would still be an equal requirement that be a safe, accessible driveway.
Understood. And so, that's between you and PennDOT, not really before this question, I realize it's one of several variances you're asking for to accommodate PennDOT. That may be the easiest one to get over. The rest of this is a densely packed neighborhood now, a sub-neighborhood, at a dangerous intersection. And the only justification for this that I've heard so far from your testimony is financial motivation. Is that right?
This is less dense than the surrounding properties. This is
In the fifth
0.75
ward?
acres per.
Less dense than the average properties in the Fifth Ward?
Well, the requirement here is for a half an acre property. These would average about 3/4 of an acre each. I know that the new homes that have just been built along Darby Road have a much more dense situation than that. I think those are close to the minimum lot sizes that are available in similar homes, so.
But you're not asking for area bulk relief or anything?
No, correct. That meets all the R1A low density residential.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about the stormwater management plans. There looks to be that you have, although they're not actually, I don't think, identified by a key on the map, but I think the things that look like waffles, for lack of a better word, are your stormwater. These are all underground, right?
Yes, but if I may, I feel like that might be a better question for our next
Okay,
witness,
that's
but
fair. Yeah, we
certainly-
can wait on that. So you said that each house will have a two-car garage and presumably they each have their own little driveway. How many bedrooms are in each house?
These homes have not been designed as of yet. This is a placeholder, so we're probably looking at a 4-bedroom home for each of these.
4-bedroom homes. And so you're anticipating that each one of these homes would have at least 2 cars, although 4 bedrooms could end up more. I'm just trying to think of how much added traffic 4 homes introduces here. Okay, you're going to need to pierce the steep slope to bring in water and sewer lines, I see. Where do the water and sewer lines currently, or on the house that you demolished?
I believe the next witness would definitely be able to answer.
Okay. All right, that's fine then. Yep. Ed?
Yeah, who would be the best to answer the question? I see it marked as special exceptions and variances. Explain why, what is what?
So are you referring, so the key on Exhibit A5 shows the 6 variances and the 2 special exceptions. Are you asking?
I'm looking at the, it says special exemption too. If you could explain it to me, I can't see that.
Oh, sure, absolutely. May I see the exhibit? Thank you. So I'm assuming you're referring to Exhibit A5. I know you have the larger plan, but okay. So if you look on the bottom right of the plan, it's a little chart labeled zoning relief requested. So the numbers that are indicated in red on the plan are associated with those numbers in that chart. So you'll see, for instance, I can certainly read through all of them, but just for example, variance number one is referring to the very steep slope disturbance. That would be a variance from section 154A-5. And then down the list, so if you're seeing, on the plan, it says variance number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's associated with the numbers that are in that chart.
Okay, but I just want to know what differentiates special exception from variance.
Oh, so the legal standard you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
The legal standard, essentially?
Yeah, well, exactly. Why is it?
Well, good question. So the zoning ordinance itself differentiates what's required for certain uses. A special exception in this case, which listed, I guess is 1 and 2 on that chart underneath the special exception, which sanitary sewer facilities within steep slope. So that's actually permitted via the zoning ordinance, subject to the applicant showing that it meets those certain specific conditions, but it is a permitted use. So typically the standard's much lower to prove a special exception because legislatively the township has agreed that it's permitted there. Again, subject to those specific criteria, which we will walk through later. Variances is a deviation from the zoning ordinance, so the bar is a little higher, but showing you meet the legal justification, the 5-part variance test under the MPC. In this case, we're asking for dimensional variances, so it would be essentially our justification. And again, we'll walk through those, each criteria with you with our next witness. But as you can see, the standard is raised a little bit for variances since it's a deviation, whereas a special exception is permitted subject to meeting those conditions in the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Can you tell me what the size of this property is in acreage?
It's almost 3.
3 acres.
We have it exactly here.
Yeah, I think it's 2.9. 2.9. Yeah, well, it's very close to 3.
So every variance that we're talking about tonight, nothing has to do with allowing you to increase.
Correct. All of the lots and the buildings themselves they meet the area in bulk, so it's permitted in the R1A district. They're not requesting any, larger size house or smaller lot. It's simply just disturbance. I would say they're mostly generally related to the steep slopes along the frontage of the property, and as you can see, there's some steep slopes within the interior of the lot.
Okay. Some of these might wait for the engineer.
Right, yeah, he'll do a better job than.
Okay, that's all.
Of course, thank you.
Jessica?
You noted that there was a section of the property where you were going to be disturbing 21% of the steep slope instead of the 15.5. Can you point to where that is?
So the area of the steep slope that needs to be addressed is along Sproul Road, and specifically, it's this line here is being created to establish that sight line. And so the area in dark gray that is outside of that line is the area that needs to be disturbed. Just we have to remove that soil to be able to have a sufficient sight line. So that's where this is coming from.
And to clarify, special exceptions 1 and 2 deal with disturbance of steep slope. So if you could look at the plan on A5, special exception 2 is in relation to the access drive. So there'll be some minor disturbance to the steep slope for the access drive, and as well as the sewer facilities that are located at the frontage of the lot. So you should say special exception 1, pointing to the proposed sewer facilities near Sproul Road.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I don't have any questions.
Our next witness.
Call your next witness. Thank you, Paul. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Certainly. My name is John Anderson, Anderson. I'm with Cornerstone Consulting Engineers and Design Services. I'm located at 213 West Main Street, Lansdale, PA 19446. I am hired as the civil engineer for the project.
Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. And John, what's your current position with Cornerstone Consulting Engineers?
I'm a part owner in Cornerstone, and I also run the civil engineering division of our company.
And are you a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I am.
And have you previously testified before other municipal bodies regarding zoning matters, including Haverford Township, and have been accepted as an expert?
Yes, I have.
Are you familiar with the subject property and its features and the applicant's proposal, including the surrounding area?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with the regulations of the Haverford Township zoning ordinance and slope control ordinance?
Yes.
And Exhibit A6 for reference includes a copy of Mr. Anderson's CV. We request that Mr. Anderson be admitted as an expert and witness in civil engineering and design.
Unless there's any objection from the board, we'll admit Jonathan as an expert.
Thank you.
John, did you hear Mr. Bloomfield's testimony regarding the location of the property and the surrounding area, and do you agree with his testimony?
Yes, I do.
And can we get specific about the approximate size? Can you get specific about the size of the subject property?
Certainly. The subject property is 2.93 acres. It's the gross acreage to the actual title line. Netting out the legal and ultimate right-of-way, it comes down to 2.8 acres.
And is the property zoned R1A low-density residential?
Yes, it is.
And did your office prepare Exhibit A7, the existing features plan, dated January 2nd, 2025, and last revised May 1st, 2025?
Yes, I did.
Referring to Exhibit A7, which is on the screen, does this plan reflect existing natural features on the property?
Yes, it does.
And Using Exhibit A7, can you please identify the property and the natural features in detail?
Yes, again, right in front of you along Sproul Road on the northern side of, we'll call it the northeastern side of Sproul Road, is the subject property. As I indicated, the net acreage is 2.8 acres. When my client, or Mr. Bloomfield, purchased the property, it had one single-family resident on it. I don't know what these blue circles are. That's not part of our plan. But just right in this area was where the previous house was located. Actually, I'm sorry, right here, almost centrally located on the property. What's interesting about this property is that the single access driveway, which is also where we are proposing our driveway, it goes up in grade, fairly steeply up into the central part of the lot, which is where the previous building was located, almost in a kind of a plateau area. Again, we are located along Sproul Road, and on this plan, various features that are represented. We have our boundary lines that indicate the size and shape of the property. We have dashed lines that represent grade lines or contour lines. These are 1-foot contours. We also have generally circles with X's and non-X's, and those represent existing trees. The red X's indicate trees that need to be removed. And also the light gray areas are slopes, or steep slopes regulated by your township ordinances. Light gray is 15 to 25% slopes, and the real dark ones that are represented on the plan are slopes in excess of 25%. Another thing to note on the property is our ultimate right-of-way line is right in this location as it extends along the frontage of the property. Sproul Road is a legal right-of-way of 33 feet wide. Ultimate right-of-way required in this area is 60 feet. So we're showing a 30-foot half-width, if we want to call it that, onto our property for the ultimate right-of-way.
Thank you. And for context, because as you look at A7, it's a bit odd, how the steep slopes and very steep slopes kind of curve along Sproul Road. Is it your opinion that the very steep slope was likely man-made as a result of the construction of Sproul Road?
Yes, so generally on the property itself, we have majority of the slopes that are located within the property boundary are slopes within 15 to 25%. As we get along Sproul Road in this area, Sproul Road actually drops in grade, and you can, as I indicated previously, the driveway extends up at a pretty steep slope, somewhere in between 9 and 10% up to the plateau. And these, as it drops down towards Sproul Road, you can see that the contour lines get closer and closer together, and that is where your steep slopes are created. Sproul Road from our driveway or our northern property corner actually starts to drop in grade. The combination of Sproul Road dropping in grade and our property in here dropping, it is our opinion, or my opinion, that when Sproul Road was created, it created these slopes of 25% and greater along our frontage.
And did you hear Mr. Bloomfield's testimony regarding the proposed use of the site for single-family detached houses, and do you agree with his testimony?
I do, yes.
Was your office responsible for the preparation of the zoning exhibit plan dated April 8th, 2025, which was submitted with the application and included as a part of Exhibit A1?
Yes.
And did your office prepare an updated version of the zoning exhibit plan, last revised May 1st, 2025, which is included in Exhibit A5?
That is correct, yes.
And can you just generally describe the changes that were made to the zoning exhibit plan since the submission of the zoning hearing board application?
I can, but maybe we should just go through what this exhibit is actually showing. I know one of the board members was asking about certain features. It's obvious that the homes are represented, the 4 homes are represented in the gray shade, with obviously they have a notation on there. The driveway, again, is located in the same or similar location as the existing driveway, albeit that it is widened to allow for the homes that are, or the configuration of lots and the dwellings that are shown on the plan. And the waffle shapes are indicated as underground stormwater basins on the property. As the previous testimony from Mr. Bloomfield indicated, we are bringing utilities down between the 2 homes closest to Sproul Road in the middle, or between those 2 homes, and to connect into the public water system. And then also part of our proposal is to extend the sanitary sewer main along Sproul Road that goes down in gradient all the way down to the intersection where the creek is, where we can tie into the sanitary sewer interceptor to bring sanitary up Sproul Road for these properties. I should note that the previously existing dwelling was connected to public water and sewer. Public water was connected in this same location to the public water system in Sproul Road. Two other properties are connected via connection in this location or centrally located on the property, and they divert towards the east or southeast along the frontage of our subject property and then extend up the southern property line. One water line services this dwelling that is located to the south or to the planned right of our property, and the other services the property to the rear. There are no easements that we located within a title commitment associated with those utilities, and I'm specifically speaking to the water utilities, and the subject parcel was previously connected to the sanitary sewer, although we can't locate that sanitary lateral. So if we were to redevelop this house, we would have to bring it into conformance with connection to the public sanitary sewer system. And if we are unable to obtain easements from our neighbors down to the sewer system, we would have to still connect into Sproul Road and or extend the sewer system or provide some sort of force main.
Thank you. And referring to...
So I'm sorry, I didn't answer your actual question. So the changes to the exhibit include relocation. We had originally shown the sanitary sewer line coming from the central portion of the property into Sproul Road with a connection as it extends in a southerly direction down to the main sewer connection. We've altered that to stay along the property frontage till we can tie a little bit further down on Sproul Road. And that actually changed our calculation of encroachment into very steep slopes or slopes in excess of 25% by that slight 46 square feet, which increases from 15.5 to 23%.
Thank you. Is there a zoning chart located on Exhibit A5 which shows the required area and bulk regulations of the R1A district?
There is, yes.
And do the lots and do the houses proposed comply with the area and bulk regulations of the R1A district?
They do. We are not, as indicated previously by your introduction and also Mr. Bloomfield's testimony, we're not asking for any relief associated with the bulk and area requirements for the zoning district for these 4 lots.
And does the plan indicate compliance with the zoning ordinance off-street parking requirements?
Yes, it does.
And are there tree plantings proposed as part of this land development?
Yes. So we had originally submitted a full land development plan set for subdivision, I should say subdivision and land development for review. We do that ahead of coming to the zoning hearing board to make sure that we are addressing all the potential zoning relief needed. We did include a landscape plan associated with that. There are existing trees on the property, as I showed you previously in A7, the existing features plan, that are being removed, and part of the landscape requirements of Haverford Township are for tree replacement. So in our original or initial submission was a tree planting plan for that. We have since been to the Planning Commission. We've also been to the Shade Tree Commission. We know we have some revisions to make to those plans to bring it into compliance. We're not intending to ask for any relief of that, but we did provide that plan. Did you want to show that?
Actually, no, I don't have that.
Okay.
And so I know you did mention this when you were referring to the changes in this plan, but I just want to emphasize the stormwater management facilities that you're proposing. Those will bring what is currently non-conforming into compliance with township, state, and federal standards and regulations with the proposed.
Yeah, so what I want to also, as we pointed out, that there are underground infiltration beds that are proposed for the property, and that we had our initial submission for the subdivision land development application showed that we were providing compliant stormwater management plans and designs in compliance with the Stormwater Code of Haverford Township. Being that the house would have to be demolished, some upgrades to, be it that the existing house would have to be demolished and was demolished due to its decrepit condition, and also the driveway would have to be upgraded, that property would also need to be, or that development of a single existing or single family home would also have to have full stormwater management to be brought up to full compliance with the township ordinances.
And you did touch on this earlier, but I just want to clarify briefly. Is the proposed plan as shown in Exhibit A5 subject to potential modifications as it is further refined to address township comments during the land development review process?
Yes, it is. And what Cam is referring to is that the plan that's before you shows placeholders for buildings. As Mr. Bloomfield designs the actual building, there may be some slight modifications, slight orientation. Also, we have not finished going through the subdivision land development process, so there are further plan revisions that are anticipated to comply with the Township Planning Commission, also the township staff and your township engineer, as well as the neighbors. They had also provided some comments to us. There will be future revisions to the plan and future submissions. However, the relief that we're requesting today or this evening is what we don't feel that relief changing in those plan modifications, and it's the minimum relief that we feel that we need for this project.
Jumping to the variance relief that is requested tonight, is the applicant requesting a total of 6 variances in order to construct the proposed project?
That's correct.
Were these variance requests identified in part based on the zoning officer's review of the submitted plans and interpretation of the zoning ordinance, as well as the township's subdivision and land development review letter associated with this project?
Yes.
And for the board's reference, we've included in Exhibit A8 the zoning officer letter, and in Exhibit A9, that is the most recent and only township engineer review letter that was received for the land development and subdivision application. And can you please just briefly just note that since submitting the applicant did amend its original variance request from section 154A5 to permit disturbance of up to 22.3% of very steep slope area, totaling 234 square feet, where only 5% is permitted.
That's correct.
So for the board's understanding, I think an easy way to categorize our variance relief is to put it into 3 categories. So the first category we'll describe as very steep slope disturbance, which includes 3 of our 6 variances. So John, can you walk the board through those 3 variances related to the disturbance of very steep slope and identify on Exhibit A5 where such disturbance is proposed?
Yes. So as we had indicated in testimony here this evening, in Mr. Bloomfield's testimony, the majority of the improvements associated with the variance relief are to bring this existing driveway up to current site or desired site distance requirements via the township ordinances and PennDOT. The existing driveway does not conform to current site distance requirements, and in order to provide that, can I jump to A10?
Yes.
So on A10 that's submitted, we've got a little bit more of a simplified diagram here. Again, it shows the representation of the property, the lot configuration, the driveway. These orange lines indicate the site distances that are required to meet the driveway location. And I want to point out that the driveway location from the previously existing dwelling and our proposed is the same, and the reason for that, it doesn't make any sense to modify the location of this driveway anywhere on this property. It creates a worsening condition, and this is actually the best location for this development. That being said, we conform to the site distance. If you are looking at Sproul Road, we conform to the site distance to the right, which in looking at the plan, it would actually be to the left. We do not conform currently if you're sitting at the driveway looking into Sproul Road, which would be you would be looking towards a southerly direction or your left hand along this sight line to get to your required distance here. And the odd shape of the lot associated with the curve in Sproul Road requires us to cut this corner and get to your required site distance at this point on the property here. Obviously, if the driveway was located further to the south, we'd be cutting into the neighbor's property and having to seek permission for that. But ideally located on the northern side of the property, on the northern side of Sproul Road, we actually conform to our sight distance as we're looking uphill or traffic coming in a southerly direction, but we do not conform to the sight distance of looking for traffic coming up Sproul Road in a northerly direction. That requires us to cut this section of hillside, I'll call it a hillside, out. And in our steepest location in this here, we are providing a retaining wall to provide that sight line. And that retaining wall at its highest would be 7 feet. So a 7-foot cut in this area. That all being said, the encroachment into the very steep slopes is associated with this little sliver of triangle, which amounts to 234 square feet, which is the 22.3% that you had indicated previously. The application as submitted, we had calculated 188 square feet with a slight adjustment per site distances. We had to add 46 more square feet to that requirement. Thus, we're asking for relief of steep slopes encroachment of 234 square feet. Go ahead.
No, please.
The other variance relief is for a connection of the stormwater management in this location. Referring to A5, this highlighted area is variance 5. We are locating a stormwater management basin to control the asphalt driveway associated in this area. It controls runoff and disturbance from the upper portion. And I would note that if we reconstructed the house and reconstructed the driveway, we'd most likely have a stormwater management basin in this location to pick up that water. And also we would look to tie into the state system, which has underground piping and underground piping and collection inlets along Sproul Road for that connection. So we're asking for encroachments into the very steep slopes in that location, as well as utility connections. We're most likely going to need to upgrade not most likely, we are going to need to upgrade the water connection to public water for the 4 homes. We would also need to upgrade that for an existing dwelling if we were to reconstruct that. We are also going to be needing to relocate most likely relocate the connections for these 2 homes that connect across this property. They connect in this location, come across here, and then up the property line. We feel that we can maintain the majority of that, but there may be a slight disconnect in service that obviously we would coordinate with those neighbors for reconnection of those water lines.
And just for reference for the record, the variances you identified, is it correct that there was a variance from section 154A5 to permit a maximum of 22.3% of very steep slope area, where a maximum of 5% is required, in addition to a variance from section 182-720C3A to permit cut and fill within the very steep slopes, and a variance from section 182-720C1 to permit sanitary sewer and stormwater management facilities.
That is correct, yes.
And also for the record, did your office prepare Exhibit A10, the sightline exhibit dated January 2nd, 2025, and last revised May 1st, 2025?
Yes, we did.
And in your opinion, will the proposed very steep slope disturbance alter the essential character of the neighborhood or negatively impact the use of the adjacent properties?
No, I think upgrading the sightline distance would also help out neighbors as they're coming down Sproul Road to see around that corner. So number one. Number two, if we were to replace that house as a single-family house and upgrade the driveway to conform to current PennDOT standards, it would enhance that previously existing home. And I want to note that typically in this situation where we have a home that's been there for a significant amount of time, it doesn't have a valid PennDOT permit for a single-use driveway. We would have to submit to PennDOT to do the improvements associated with a single driveway and proposed development of 4 homes as well. So they would require us to update our site distance regardless of a 4-lot or single-lot development or a 4-lot development.
And in addition, do you agree, as you mentioned, you are proposing to use the existing driveway, but now you're proposing a stormwater management facility to collect the runoff from that? Do you believe that the stormwater runoff from the property will improve as a result of the proposed development?
Yes, it will, yes.
So I want to move to the second category of variances that I describe as essentially the retaining wall that we're proposing. Are the two variances of the application, I'm sorry, can you please point out, utilizing Exhibit A5, where those two variances concerning the retaining wall are and what we are requesting?
So as we had indicated for the site distance exhibit, we're proposing a retaining wall, a linear retaining wall in this location in order to cut down this hillside here to provide for the required site distance. Again, there's a slight encroachment into very steep slopes, 25% greater. There's also an encroachment into slopes with 15 to 25. However, we are encroaching into 15 to 25% slopes, but we actually comply with the allowable encroachment. So we're not seeking any relief for that section of the code, just for the very steep slopes. And it would be for the construction of this retaining wall in order to get this required site distance.
And specifically, is the applicant requesting a variance from section 182-727B to extend a retaining wall across the division of boundary lines, which the township engineer review letter has identified as the proposed?
Yes, so in order to fully understand that, we're creating a lot in this location closer to Sproul Road, another lot, second lot closer to Sproul Road, and we're proposing a retain, and also there's this is a conforming lot actually, but in other terms we call it a flag lot. So we have a retaining wall that's cutting across 3 properties, or in a sense just 2 property lines, but it's encroaching into 3 of the 4 properties.
And in addition, is a variance requested from section 182-727C1 to permit a retaining wall in the front yard with a maximum height of 7 feet, where a maximum of 30 inches is required.
A maximum of 30 inches is either required or allowed, but yes, we are asking for relief to allow for a 7-foot wall.
And so can you explain to the board why the retaining wall is proposed at its specific location and its proposed height?
Yeah, so obviously you saw in Exhibit A10, the orange sight line across here. We're locating that wall just to the northeast of that sight line to give us that required distance. If we pushed it any further back, we would encroach more into the very steep slopes across these 2 properties. So we've tried to locate it as close to the sight line as possible and to reduce the relief necessary for the very steep slope encroachment. And in doing that, these contour lines, as they jump up from Sproul Road, require that wall to be 7 foot from the lowest grade to the highest grade.
And is it the applicant's intention to build the retaining wall to blend into the community to ensure that it aesthetically looks consistent with the surrounding neighborhood?
It is, yes.
And the last category, the third category for the variance requests, which includes the median setback, can you please describe to the board exactly what our request is there? And pointing to Exhibit A5, I know you have in the zoning table chart the median setback listed.
Yes, so there's an ordinance that requires us to meet the median setback of properties within 300 feet in either direction on the same side of the road. We measured the distance of those existing buildings or residential buildings within 300 feet on either side, and we came up with the median setback of 60.75 feet from the ultimate right-of-way of Sproul Road. So the front yard setback, the median setback would be 60.75.
And what's the required front yard setback of the R1A district?
That would be 40 feet from the ultimate right-of-way.
And what is the applicant proposing the front yard setback be of the houses along Sproul Road?
They vary. So the furthest distance is lot number 1. That distance is, it's going to be located 323.63 feet away from Sproul Road. Lot number 2, Lot number 2 is 131.8 feet away. Lot number 3 is 65.9, and lot number 4 is 257.14. And so for that, that is a median average of 194.61 feet.
So therefore, do the proposed setbacks significantly exceed both the median existing lot setback and the setback required for the R1A district?
They do, yes.
And based on discussions that the project team has had with the township, do you believe that the median front yard setback requirement was intended to apply to residential subdivisions using a shared access such as this?
No, I don't. It's not typically applied to what we would call an R1A district with somewhat larger lots. It's more for an urban setting where you want more uniformity in a more densely populated area of a township.
We'll walk through the variance standards listed in the MPC and the zoning ordinance section 1-1004. Are you familiar with these variance criteria set forth in the MPC?
I am, yes.
And in your opinion, do the variance requests meet these standards?
I do, yes.
Are there unique physical circumstances or conditions peculiar to the property generating the unnecessary hardship for this variance?
There are, and as we previously described in testimony, there's unique physical circumstances associated with Sproul Road. Sproul Road's on a curve associated with the frontage of the property. It slopes fairly steeply across our frontage. Our property has some relief or significant height as you proceed to the back of the property, and we believe that Sproul Road, the construction of Sproul Road, actually created the steep slopes along our frontage.
Can the property, whether it's built for a single-family home or the proposed four-lot subdivision, can it be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of the zoning ordinance, specifically relating to the sections we're requesting relief for?
In strict conformity, no. Based on the testimony that I provided, you would need to upgrade the property, be it a one-lot project or a four-lot subdivision, to conform with current regulations in order to provide a safe access point to this property.
And in your opinion, was the unnecessary hardship caused by the applicant?
No.
Do you believe that the variances would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, substantially impair or permanently impair the appropriate use of the development of adjacent property, or be detrimental to the public welfare?
No, I think the proposed project or the proposal that's before you would enhance the neighborhood. It would help out the site distance along Sproul Road. It's contemplating bringing up a sewer main from the interceptor down Sproul Road up the frontage. The various properties that front Sproul Road as you go in a southerly direction, their sewer connections are somewhat compromised, and so it would allow them in the future, if they wanted to connect to that sewer main. So no, I believe that this would enhance the community.
And are the variances requested the minimum variances that would afford relief?
Yes, I believe we described how these are the minimum relief necessary, and with the small amount of disturbance associated with very steep slopes, in my opinion, it seems a very de minimis request at 234 square feet.
So now moving on to the special exception portion of our requests. Is the applicant requesting two special exceptions from the Haverford Township zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Is the first special exception request to install sanitary sewer facilities within steep slope pursuant to section 182-720C5B?
Yes.
Referring to Exhibit A5, which is on the board, can you identify for the board the areas of the property where these sanitary sewer facilities are proposed to be located within steep slope?
So again, it's a four-lot subdivision, bringing a main or a common sewer line, gravity line down the center of the property to a point just beyond, just in back of the proposed wall. We're coming on an angle to a manhole just in front of the wall and then extending down along our frontage to a manhole within Sproul Road, trying to reduce the impact as much as possible to the asphalt cartway of Sproul Road. But that's where the proposed sewer line is located.
And as you testified earlier, is that generally the location of where the prior single-family detached sewer facilities were located?
We believe it is, yes.
And do you believe that it's feasible to avoid disturbing steep slope for the placement of the sanitary sewer facilities on the property?
No.
Is the second special exception request to install an access driveway for single-family detached dwellings within steep slope pursuant to section 182-720C5C?
Yes, and that's located, I know we didn't really go over that previously in testimony, but that's located at the current location of the existing driveway. along Sprawl Road, and also there are a section of 15 to 25 slopes that are located up gradient or up into the property in this area. The special exception or the disturbance requirement doesn't differentiate between the two sloped areas, so we are asking for encroachment into the 15 to 25 in this location, and then this area, which contains both steep slope areas at the current location of the driveway. The current driveway configuration doesn't meet PennDOT requirements at this time, so we would have to widen this area regardless of the development, flatten the slope out to provide a maximum permitted slope within 20 feet of the driveway intersection, and that requires this area to be regraded and disturbed.
And as required with that section that I referenced for the special exception, can you confirm whether the grade of the driveway will be less than 10% for the
We're required to show for 20 or a little bit further into the site a maximum slope of 4% to meet PennDOT's requirements, and then we will propose that we will not exceed 10% in the driveway along its entire length. It really is only that steep in the initial location, in the initial length of the driveway, and we can flatten it out as we get up into the site.
And in your opinion, is it feasible to reroute that access drive in any way that would avoid disturbance of the steep slopes on the property?
No, there's steep slope areas at the existing driveway today due to how it's configured, and they pretty much extend along the entire frontage. So there's no way to avoid steep slopes with the relocation of the driveway. There's no way to avoid it with the reconstruction and bringing the driveway up to current standards, township standards and PennDOT standards.
Are you familiar with the special exception standards set forth in section 184-1004A2 of the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
And in your opinion, does the proposed installation of the sanitary sewer facilities and the access driveway within areas of steep slope comply with such standards?
Yes.
For the board, we're willing to, we're more than happy to walk through each standard with you. I mean, given the minor improvements for the access driveway and the sewer facilities, if you're willing to accept his testimony that we comply, we're happy to go forward if you'd like.
What do you think, Billy?
I don't think, you're talking about the standards for,
This for special
in the
exception.
township zoning code?
Right.
Yeah, we don't need an applicant to tell us what the zoning code says.
Not, right, of course.
in compliance.
Right, just that,
Well, you can walk them through and ask them.
that's my question. If you're willing to accept that he has read them and accepted that we're complying with them, or he's happy to walk through each one individually. It's up to the board.
We'll be able to glean about all of these, whether individually they work from the other testimony. I don't need the civil engineer to tell me each of those things, but you can certainly give a summary.
Okay.
If his professional judgment is it.
Right. And so, I mean, and so as you did, as you said, right, John, you have reviewed each special exception standard, and in your opinion, does the proposed sanitary sewer and access driveway comply with these standards in this special exception?
Yes, it does.
Other questions I have for John, if anybody has any questions.
Ed?
Okay. Retaining wall.
Yes, sir.
Along, there's like 5 of them, I think I counted. But the one along Sprawl Road, the purpose of that retaining wall, the 7-foot high, is to improve sight distance.
Correct.
Correct?
That is correct. Just for clarity, if we didn't have to improve the sight distance, we wouldn't be proposing the retaining wall.
Right. So you're actually going to be eliminating steep slopes on the downside of that wall.
Actually, yes. So for clarity, we would be regrading this area along Sprawl Road, this heavy dark line. I don't know if this is going to work. We'll try it. So for clarity on this exhibit, this angle point and then this line extends all across here, and then at this end of the angle point is that proposed retaining wall. This area in front of the retaining wall, we can regrade. Actually, this slope is fine through here. It's the area right in this location that needs to be regraded. By the construction of the retaining wall, this would all flatten out across here, and it would eliminate those sloped areas.
Gotcha. will you be creating any steep slope with this with this project? I'm looking at that turnaround and at the other retaining wall. It looks like there's additional steep slope being created.
So that's an interesting point. In most developments and in your township ordinances, they allow for slopes to be created or graded or proposed slopes on average of 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. So that would be a 33% or a 25% slope, which would then be categorized by your township as steep slopes. So the answer to your question is yes, we will be creating steep slopes of the property, but I will tell you that the majority of the developments within Haverford Township in current times are also creating those slopes every application.
Okay.
So what we're testifying to is that these slopes aren't naturally occurring, which was what, in my opinion, a steep slopes ordinance is supposed to regulate and protect, which would be naturally occurring steep slopes, which could be in the form of exposed rock walls, other natural geological features. This is, in my opinion, created through the construction of Sprawl Road itself, so they're man-made. And the reason I make that point is, to your question, are we creating man-made steep slopes for this development? Yes, we are. They're located in various areas here, but they also meet your current township subdivision and land development ordinances for grading on lots.
Okay, understood. I would assume on lot number 2 that the retaining wall that's on that lot is to prevent disturbance to steep slopes?
Yes, actually it is, yes.
So is it even possible to build that house without disturbing additional steep slope?
It is actually. So this area of encroachment into the steep slope is actually, we contemplated that being a cantilevered portion of the building. So we're not looking to disturb that. We would cantilever a portion of the building, or we'd reconfigure it. And in previous testimony, we know that there's going to be changes up into the interior of the lot for either configurations of the homes, driveways, and so forth as we go through the subdivision and land development process. But we're not asking for any additional relief. Those steep slopes that are shaded in light gray are slopes of 15 to 25%. And we're actually allowed to disturb 15% of those. In this plan, we're only disturbing 13.9% of those slopes. So we're in conformance and we're not asking for relief. If any configuration of the lot, the roadway would increase our disturbance, we would have to come back to you for a variance. But we're not looking for that, and we're not looking for that variance in the future.
So this lot number 2, will it have restrictions for clearing of trees or anything from that part of it?
So we are clearing trees on the property as part of the development, and then we are required to do a tree replacement for that. And we will be in conformance if we obtain approval from the subdivision.
You want to sort of take off trees off the steep slopes, because then that defeats the reason for the ordinance.
Correct. And I believe that was discussed at the Planning Commission, definitely the Shade Tree Commission, and there would be provisions within the plan developers agreement that those trees would not be allowed to be removed unless they sought permission from the township in some fashion, and they wouldn't be allowed to disturb any additional slopes. The approval of the plan, be it either the zoning hearing board here this evening or a subdivision land development application, basically creates that area of steep slopes, right? Is defined in those plans. Any additional encroachment would either need to seek relief. If there any additional encroachments beyond 15% of the 15 to 25 would need to come back and seek relief from the zoning hearing board.
But then it'd be too late because we already.
No, not necessarily. It wouldn't be too late. Let's take, for instance, if that lot was developed and it was developed, and built per plan, right? And the homeowner wanted to build, like you had previously, some decks or patios and so forth, and they're proposing them within the steep slopes. The building permit application, zoning permit application would come before the township. They review it and say, nope, you can't do it. The overall development's already exceeded the steep slope allowance. You'd have to come before the zoning hearing board and provide justification for those encroachments.
That's the point. because now we're looking at this project minimally disturbing steep slopes and very steep slopes. But then again, this project could open a can of worms and allow much more slopes to be disturbed. That's what I'm saying about being too late, because we allowed the approval of something because we thought you only had the minimal amount of disturbance.
If I'm understanding correctly, that would require revisiting the zoning hearing board for increases.
Sure, but you've already had the first part, so then it gets into the can of worms. Let me look at the other lots. I'm trying to find the numbers. Well, I think it's 1 and 4, and yeah, 1 and 4. Those stormwater beds on those properties don't have a discharge point.
No, give me a second here. So the way that designed currently would be 100% infiltration for the required volume. Any overflow would then flow out of the collection inlets and be naturally discharged. We had some concerns of that with the Planning Commission and the Township Engineers Review Letter, and we are in the process of making modifications to those designs. One issue was brought up, Mr. Bloomfield brought it up. The neighbor with the house here actually has a pool in this location. They didn't like the idea of this infiltration bed being here, and we said that we can definitely move it down a little bit closer to Sproul Road, but not disturb any additional steep slopes in that area. The lot, from a drainage standpoint, basically this is your highest point in this location. The majority of the property from this line here drains towards Sproul Road, and then the rest of this drains towards the back.
Okay, so now we have another thing that could result in changes to the disturbance of the steep slope. Depends on where you relocate those to.
But there's no steep slopes in those locations. All this area is not regulated steep slopes. We only have a minor area here and a small area here.
But on the.
And there's plenty of room to make.
I assume that the one on lot 4 is for mainly the driveway on the low side towards Sproul Road.
It's anticipated, yes, the driveway and a portion of the, some of the site walkways and so forth. But
And
yes,
if you
it's the
moved it
driveway.
closer to Sproul Road, you could get into the very steep slope.
But we don't have to move it that far to get away from the pool.
I'm not worried about the pool. I'm worried about you telling me that you have an inlet that's going to act as a bubble up level spout or anything.
But we're not asking for any relief for any of the stormwater management requirements, either a waiver from Saldo. There's no zoning relief required for that.
Now, but we don't know what the final design is. That's what I'm kind of concerned about.
Correct, yeah, the township will review the subdivision of land development. Our proposal is not to disturb any additional steep slope or very steep slope. So at this time moving forward, that's our intention. If we had to, we would have to revisit you guys and request that additional.
But another way to put it, as we've tried to testify to you this evening, this is the minimum relief that we're asking for this development. We're not planning on coming back for additional relief. I wouldn't be able to make the testimony to you that this is the minimum relief necessary if we're coming back. So I just want to make that clear that this is what we're asking for. We're not coming back for any additional relief for the design.
Okay, I hear you. I'm just being.
Would it be safe to say that if you had to adjust the plan, obviously the township engineers would review that before you get final approval, and I'm assuming would flag any additional zoning requirements that you would need at that time?
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. But at this point, with the comments that we received from the Planning Commission, the Township Engineers Review, the reason we're before you this evening is the fact that we think this is it. This is all we're asking for. This is the minimum relief.
No, my point was to try to alleviate Mr. McGarvey's concern in that if you had to change it, obviously it would get flagged before. So even if you were to grant relief and you were to alter the plan, our township engineer would flag that in the adjustment, because obviously it's not going to get approved unless the township engineer approves it, and then ultimately through the land development process and up to the supervisor. So it was more of an alleviation that there's no way you're going to be able to adjust that without somebody flagging it.
Right. I agree with you.
Okay. Are you proposing to put a fence above the retaining wall so nobody walks out their backyard and falls down over a 7-foot high wall?
That's correct. The way this wall would be configured is we can mount the fence to the top of the wall without any additional encroachment.
And it won't affect the
Yeah,
site distance.
how high, what, you're talking about a fence in the front yard?
No, he was asking if there would be a fence
Well, that's-
above the retaining wall.
I understand.
Oh, sorry. And I believe Paul can testify to that.
That's not something we've discussed honestly in our meetings, but I think a hedge would be much more appropriate, or some way of defending a pedestrian from encountering that situation and not getting close to that wall. I would not anticipate building a fence on top of a 7-foot high wall.
Because that would be another variance.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Okay. What is the current land cover along Sproul Road there? Is it that's very steep area, is it mowed or is it forested?
It's wooded.
Wooded, okay.
I think the existing conditions book might show that.
Yeah.
And I guess my final question here is, why did you elect to use a common driveway as opposed to a traditional cul-de-sac?
So we looked at all sorts of designs for this project. We actually did several concepts with cul-de-sacs and so forth. The requirement for cul-de-sac would increase number one, our impervious coverages, increase our disturbances. It requires minimum widths and so forth. And it just didn't work for a cul-de-sac to come up to the top. So we feel that it's our opinion that we can design a common driveway that provides the minimum distance or minimum width required for the township ordinances, and then we can provide a turnaround area for emergency vehicles in this location. And that would be in the form of a slight widening of the asphalt driveway here and utilizing the existing driveways into each lot for that turnaround.
Okay, it's just that it sort of creates the problem in the front yard, because if you had a cul-de-sac, the front yard wouldn't be Sproul Road. That's what you wouldn't have that retaining wall in the front yard because it wouldn't be the front yard, because the house would face the cul-de-sac.
That's if it was a dedicated roadway to the township.
Yeah, but it's still.
The sightline requirement, but he's talking about, our medium front yard
Yeah,
distance?
the front yard and I didn't know we allowed flag lots either.
It's not, I use the term flag lot. It's a conforming lot. It's not a flag lot. It meets the minimum lot width requirement and the minimum area requirement.
Okay, that's a new one. I've never seen that. That's all I have.
Jessica?
I just had a question to follow up on the tree removal on the site. It looks like you're removing about 75% of the existing trees, some of which are substantial in size. What was the feedback from the Shade Tree Commission that you're incorporating?
The arborist that's on the Shade Tree Commission, he's very concerned about the number of trees and stuff. Some of the trees actually that we would like to save, he actually thought that was a invasive species and a trash tree that he thought should come down. However, we still want to save that tree, and it is shown to be saved on this. It's a substantial tree, albeit it's not a native, it's invasive. But we have some work to do with the Shade Tree Commission to bring the submitted plan into compliance.
The township arborist, we relied on an earlier plan that was provided to me when I purchased the property. The township arborist noted that there was quite a few discrepancies from what he saw on site. We have a scheduled meeting to go back through the site and identify each and every tree and determine which ones have to be removed. Because as an owner of this property, the trees are part of what is attractive about it. I don't want to be taking down these trees. Obviously, the ones along the hillside and along Sproul Road, there are many, many volunteers there. If we're removing that hillside, those trees are going to have to be removed, and we're happy to replace and create a buffer along Sproul Road with new plantings. But the trees that are established higher up on the plateau are beautiful trees, and we're going to try to keep as many of those as we can.
I don't have any other questions.
Jessica?
So I have a bunch of questions. So returning to the retaining wall, so it is a significant drop. I mean, you're required to provide anything more than 30 inches would require some kind of fall protection relief, like a guardrail. So you're proposing just hedges? So I would certainly want to reconsider that. I don't feel comfortable with that at all. And sticking with the retaining wall, will it be stepped or will it be 7 feet all the way across?
Right now, it's configured to be one linear wall. So it's not 7 feet all the way across. It blends into the grade on either side, like up into this area here on the northern side of the wall, and on the southern side of the wall, it blends back into the grade. But in the middle is where it's at its highest or extreme point of 7 feet. So we wanted to let you know what the highest point of that wall would be.
Well, I certainly think that needs further review, or whether you need additional relief by a fence or railing.
Certainly, I believe the applicant, willing to suggest for suggestions.
Yeah, we're willing to
conditions and-
cooperate, yes. I'd like to point out, though, a lot of that is actually already in a very steep slope. So a person who might encounter the edge of that wall is already descending down, in some places this is about a 40% grade or more. This is the edge of that road. So it's not a portion of the site where a pedestrian might find himself.
I'm talking about the person coming from lot 3.
So am I.
A child could fall off the edge of that.
And I think the requirement is if a person if there's an area where somebody might walk, that you do have to have that kind of protection. So if we were able to create some kind of a planter or a hedge or something that might create a physical barrier that's further away from the drop, I think that's the approach I would prefer to take, rather than see a vertical barrier that's added on top of the height of that wall.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to make it any worse, but I just want to make sure that we're not creating a safety issue. Moving over to, we talked about minimum relief required. There's a few things that I wonder about, with the retaining wall crossing 3 lots. Is it because that there's an additional lot that we talked about as a conforming lot? Is that one of the reasons why one of the variances you're requesting is because the retaining wall is crossing 3 lots? If it was 3, if you were only subdividing into 3, wouldn't that be less relief that you needed when we're talking about minimum relief?
Well, we could also either step the wall or reconfigure the wall to different pieces, which would basically increase our encroachment. Keeping this as a linear wall across the frontage there reduces the amount of relief that we're requesting, and so that's how we were approaching this.
And then the number of times that the utilities penetrate the steep slopes and I also have just concerns of like the utilities crossing through, multiple property lines. Would it be better if they followed or exited out at the shared driveway, as far as, only a single point where they're crossing the steep slopes and crossing into Sproul Road? Could we minimize the number of times that you're exiting the property onto Sproul Road?
We can definitely look at locating the utilities in more of a single location. The water and sewer is located in a single location here. Although we were looking to reduce the amount of encroachment, not in steep slopes, but in paved areas, and increase the sewer line that extends along Sproul Road, down to this manhole here. We're already disturbing these steep slopes, so it seemed logical, why not reduce the amount of pavement encroachment? The only other location of the utility crossing would be this connection into the stormwater system. Yes, we could look at bringing that across here and coming across at the same water line to reduce that encroachment.
Okay. And then the next item I had was just, as we testified, or as Mr. McGargy mentioned, and you guys alluded to, that you were here for some of the earlier applications, and our typical applications are people coming in looking for decks, looking to add a shed, et cetera. And a lot of times their reasoning is that they have an irregularly shaped lot. And what I see here is the 4 most irregularly shaped lots I've ever seen or could ever imagine. And another thing I'm seeing, as being on the board, and we get we have gotten a lot of brand new houses where people, they spend a lot of money on what's effectively, almost a luxury property that didn't come with a deck. And the first thing they want to do is build a deck, and they think, okay, I'm going to build a deck. I'm going to, it's no problem. And they come and they find out that the lot has been built out completely, or it's been built in such a way that there's no possible way that they can add a deck. And I see some issues with lot 4. I mean, really all of them could have issues. I mean, especially lot 4, and so I know you said that you haven't finished the design of these, but I would highly recommend that you plan for decks, whether or not you build them or not, at least that somebody could build a reasonably sized deck and without coming back to this board seeking more relief, and also an addition, because people are going to build onto these houses one day too. And so some of these are built right up to side yards, rear yards, and have very limited room to expand. And the people that are going to be able to afford to buy these houses are going to want additional amenities either right away or in the future. So I would highly recommend the configuration, these odd angles and things, that you consider that greatly, that you dash in future amenities if you're not planning to provide them. That certainly, because I can picture any one of these properties coming back before this board saying, I just dropped huge amount of money on this property and I expect to be able to improve upon it. So I see some major issues with some of the layouts that you have, by providing these funny lots shapes. And the other one I also wonder about is lot 1, this extreme zone where the person who owns lot 1, most of it is unusable driveway space. Who's maintaining that? Is there going to be some kind of as far as the character of the neighborhood, I mean, is that person expected to mow the lawn all the way down to Sproul Road? I'm just the practicality jumps off the page at me as to who's this person has a 1 acre lot, but 2/3 of it is useless. So those are just some of the other things I would, certainly, as you talk about, internally, and you come up with your, if it's a mini HOA agreement or something like that, that those kind of maintenance things are discussed as part of that too.
Yeah, again, we would have some sort of a homeowner agreement or easement in place that would work to handle that. My understanding that the variance we're asking for about having a wall crossing the property lines is to avoid conflict between property owners too. That care of that wall and that whole front portion, the grading along Sproul Road, the surface that's maintained there, whatever landscaping is along the shoulder of Sproul Road, would all be part of that community concern.
Good. I would certainly hope that was something that was coordinated.
And the shared driveway, as testified earlier, all of that would be under a shared maintenance agreement. So.
Okay. But yeah, I definitely see.
Is there a way you could make the retaining wall a common element?
Yeah.
I think if you make it a common element, then you make that responsibility HOA, it kind of takes away that issue.
Yeah, it's the same as.
Well, wait a second. If you're going to do an HOA with common elements, then don't we need to have a completely different plan? One that shows what is owned by the unit owners and what is commonly owned, because there is no common ownership right here in this plan.
Well, I believe that would be reflected in the subdivision and land development application.
I got it. But that's a big change. You're going to have to change the lot lines. I presume you end up in a HOA type condo situation where each owner owns their own unit, and then there's common elements that are shared. Isn't that what you just said?
No, it would be proposed, the lots that are shown and the houses shown, they can have a shared maintenance agreement. Or
Sure,
something
they
to that
can,
extent.
but that's not what we were just talking about. We were talking about shared ownership of elements of a retaining wall.
You can certainly agree for the 4 lots to have that without even necessarily, condo, HOA dollars.
So I understand the financial subsidy from one owner to another, but how do you set up common elements then?
Well, I think we're using the term common elements as an HOA declaration. I think we're just
Right, I was looking at it as an HOA deck, that you would actually put it in the declaration for the HOA as to what would be considered a common element. Not necessarily a setting where you would own common elements. There's 2 different determinations of that. Not a condo unit where each one owns a common element. It is considered a common element of the HOA for purposes of maintenance.
Right. So if I've ever looked at minor subdivision plan like this, it would certainly strike me that this was suitable for 2 homes at most. I think you have pushed the boundaries, credit to you, about what you could try to get away with here. But there's a significant amount of variances required. There's significant interference with steep slopes. We're on a dangerous corner. I have yet to hear why this needs to be a 4-unit subdivision, 4-parcel, other than economic interest. I get it. That's fair.
I don't understand how any of the encroachment would change if it was a 2-unit development either, so. I would have all the same concerns if this was a single-family
You
house.
certainly wouldn't have 2 lots built onto a hillside, partially cantilevered, maybe not, we don't know yet, in order to protect the steep slopes. If you had only had the 2 upper homes in here, I don't think we'd have much in the way. I know we'd have a variance for the sight lines. That's PennDOT's business. And I know that, you know, you'd still have a driveway that's going up, but at least it's an existing driveway, right? We now have another driveway going into house 2 or whatever it is, right down the hillside. I have yet to hear what the hardship is for why you need such density in this location.
Just to clarify, Mr. Rhodes, the variance we're seeking is not density related.
I understand.
whatsoever. So, as testified earlier, I believe John had mentioned single-family home, 2-lot, or the 4-lot proposed. The access drive that we're proposing, it has to have that sight line. So they're going to have to disturb that street flow, and same with the utilities. But it really comes down to, those are the only, essentially that's the variance request that we're requesting tonight. So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the amount of the lots or the homes proposed. But certainly we share your concern, and I think I can speak to the applicant to say, we believe that we're making that road safer by putting that sight line in. And I think that's the intent of the applicant, to make sure that that site access conforms to the sightline requirements for the safety purposes. Cars coming in and out, emergency vehicles coming in and out, would be a lot safer after the development.
I have any other questions, Bob?
No other questions?
But we do have people from the public, so maybe.
Steep slopes to build a house.
Do you have any other questions?
No other questions.
Jess?
Just for the record, I'm assuming you want your exhibits.
Yes, please, sorry.
Because
Yes.
I figured you were closed.
Yes, I was. I got distracted. Yes, we'd ask that you admit the exhibits presented tonight into the record. Thank you.
They're admitted. Okay. With that, I'm going to ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Anyone present that received regular mail? Come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address, please?
Walt Frederickson. I reside at 4016 Darby Road, Bryn Mawr.
What was your last name again, Walter?
Frederickson, Fredericksen.
And what would you like to tell us, Walter?
We've lived at our home for 27 years now, so I know this property well. When I first received the public notice, my overwhelming reaction was, someone is trying to pound a square peg into a round hole. The number of variances, I'm a firm believer that homes and lots, properties, if you listen, speak to you what they want. And this is a lot that has a lot of challenges. The slope is amazing. And just the topography is really problematic. So, what I envision is a grand single family home, maybe 2 homes. My concern, if I were a prospective owner or buyer, I would be concerned about a lot of things. The driveway, you've got 4 houses. Let's just say they're 4-bedroom homes. Potentially, you're going to have, 4 adults, husband and wife, 2 kids. So that could be 16 cars coming out of a single driveway. That's the challenge of this lot is entrance and egress from your home. I would never buy one of these homes for aesthetic reasons because the variance for a retaining wall of 7 feet and potentially to have a fence on top of it, I would never even consider buying a property that had that kind of outward appearance, you know, as you enter the property. Plus, you're coming up a driveway. The first two houses you see are the rear of the homes. I think there could have been a better way to site some of these. I don't know what that is. I'm not a professional architect or land planner, but I'm just speaking as a potential buyer. A 7-foot retaining wall in the front of the property with potentially a fence on top would be a no deal for me. Coming up a single driveway and what you see are the back of homes, aesthetically, I would never pay the price that I think they're going to be asking for these homes. So my concern is aesthetics. You know, aesthetics are really big. I'm very much a form over function kind of guy. And aesthetics are really important, plus the value. You know, I want to make sure that what's being put there is going to enhance the value of our homes that surround it. And I just don't see, every buyer is different. For me, I would never consider it. So my stretching that, I think, what if they have a problem selling these homes because of some of the aforementioned items that I talked about, the retaining wall, the slope of the land? The number of people coming in and out of that driveway is going to be unbelievable. You have visitors, friends coming. Just, you know, I was telling our neighbors, in the fall I was coming home, north on Sproul Road, and a pickup truck was coming out of that driveway and almost smashed into my car. I laid on the horns, all the groceries I had purchased went flying through the car, and I'm thinking, this is going to be hell with a lot of cars coming out of that property. So, you know, I'm not a developer. I don't understand all the challenges that they face. I can understand some of them, but purely from a buyer standpoint, I think this lot is screaming for a single-family home. And that's why a single-family home was built on it. And that's why the gentleman had problems selling this land. There are a lot of challenges. I just feel, and I wish the developer well, I hope he builds incredible properties that enhance and augment, you know, our values. I just have a lot of concerns about how this is going to, you know, really develop.
Questions?
Thank you.
Cameron, you have questions? Jesse?
Mr. Frederickson, what was your address in proximity?
4016 Darby Road. So where as you come in the off of Sproul Road on the property, the driveway,
Yeah.
we're immediately the house to the left, the property to the left. We're about 2 acres. It's a stone house. It's the first house on Darby Road. No. That.
Okay, thank you.
Are you on the corner of Darby and 320?
Yes, the first house as you exit Sproul Road. And also, someone mentioned, if I might just add, the configuration of the lots are very unusual. Lot number 1 has the entire swatch of land that comes down behind our property. I've often thought, who's going to cut that grass? Who's going to maintain it? It's such an odd configuration of land. And if you, when I was here for the initial meeting, I asked if there was going to be an HOA, and I was told no, there's going to be no HOA. I can see an HOA here because who's going to control the entrance, what that's going to look like? Who's going to control maintaining that retaining wall? And from a selfish standpoint, who's going to be maintaining that land that's right behind my property? Now, of course, 20 years ago, we built, you know, a woodland area to kind of separate us from that property. But that is a concern of mine. Who's going to maintain it? What's it going to look like? So believe me, I know that sometimes these things get through and the surrounding neighbors have to deal with the fallout that really haven't been addressed and have been poo-pooed, like, you're just creating problems. But, there are issues. There's a lot of issues with this property. Thank you for your time.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
So is the Harkins property between yours and the subject property?
Dr. Harkins is my partner, so we own the house together.
Okay.
We've been
I
there
got it.
26
I got
years.
it. Okay. And since you are an adjoining neighbor, is your experience in this part of, what's your experience in this part of 320 from vehicle safety? Have you had vehicle encroachments onto your front yard or onto your property?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I was here as well when we were developing the two properties on Darby Road. Jeff, our new next door neighbor, owns the home, and there was an extra lot that the Faragallis sold, an acre of land, to E-Build, and they developed two homes there. So I was here for the meetings then, and the board was talking about putting sidewalks in and to putting bike paths in. I said, listen, this section of Darby Road is not Darby Road towards Eagle Road or going towards, this building here. It's very much country, it's windy. We have a minimum of a car accident a year. At Jeff's property, they used to have a stone retaining wall that annually was smacked. I could hear it in the house, when a car hit it. And an older man almost killed himself, I think the last strike. So, I forget my point. So anyway.
Well, my question was your
So I'm very
experience
familiar
with
with
vehicle incursions or other accidents. Given the speed at which cars are coming down 320, the traffic at Darby, and then you're just coming down the hill, and now you're right into an intersection, coming around a corner with not great sightlines.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, believe me, I've retired. I spent a lot of time outside on our property landscaping, and I see and hear the traffic. The traffic on Darby Road is unbelievable. The traffic on Sproul Road is unbelievable. I almost had an accident with a pickup truck coming, a single truck exiting that property on the driveway. So there was before the house was demolished, the fire department ran a training exercise, I believe, there, and the fire department said, this is almost inaccessible to get up this hill. So, I know that things like the fire department, have had problems. Paul has had to put heavy stones in part of the driveway in order to have traffic go up there because of, I guess, entrance kind of related problems. But as I alluded to earlier, the challenges are the topography of the land. And this land is saying no-go for 4 homes with all the complications and all the traffic implications. I could easily see people being killed coming out of that driveway. And, if you've got a husband, wife, and kids, I assume those kids are going to be teenagers driving. As I said, maybe potentially 4 cars per home. You've got young, inexperienced people coming out of that driveway. I think it's a recipe for disaster, personally, the way I look at it.
May I ask one question?
Yes.
Mr. Frederickson.
Frederickson.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson testified earlier that he thinks it would potentially be a benefit to Earl Road and the residential properties nearby to clear that sight line in the front and remove the trees that are, along Earl Road. Do you think that would be a benefit to nearby residences to improve that sight line there?
I think it would, but it would preclude me from ever even purchasing a home there.
Okay.
The aesthetics would overrule the positive. So yes, I think it would improve the sight line. There's no way in hell I would buy a house with a 7-foot retaining wall with potentially a fence on top of it. Never. So that's where I get concerned about, are these going to sell? Are they going to sell for what type of money? Is that going to impact my home and my value? So that's where the aesthetics and the value issue come to play for me. Sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name
Please raise
is...
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and address for the record.
My name is Jeff Wright, Geoff, last name Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. I live at 4008 Darby Road. Just so you all can see, it is this address here, formerly the Farragut Alleys. So my biggest concern right now after this discussion for security and safety reasons is the retaining wall. Yes, I do believe that this will help the view coming out of here without a doubt. I don't know how much it maybe helps some other neighbors, but a 7-foot wall is dangerous to me because I have a soon-to-be 6-year-old and a son that's a 1.5 years. So I know for us, my daughter's really excited of, Daddy, maybe we're going to get some families in here. For me, the idea that they might fall off that wall inadvertently. I know my wonderful neighbor Walt wouldn't like to see a fence on top, but security is a concern for me. So a fence or whatnot, I would like that to be addressed if this does go forward. And then just one general comment that I've already made before at our previous meeting back in January was that these lots are really crazy. Well, call it 2 are. This one and this one look fine. But this lot, I've been going back and forth for months now thinking, if I'm going to buy a $1.5 million house, why am I going to buy where half of it I don't even get to use? We're talking about, common maintenance, and I agree that probably is the better way to do it. But, to me, the lots just don't make sense in functional way. I understand that you're trying to maximize the lots, but I look at it and I see, okay, I just bought a 4,000 square foot house where I can't do anything over here. We're talking about throwing in maybe a little turnaround spot, which as a neighbor that would visually see that, I'm not a fan of. But I just look at this and I think like we are trying to put too many houses in here in one spot. The hill and the slopes are absolutely an issue. I'm glad to see you guys addressing it. In a way, I'd almost like to see the township be able to work with you guys a little bit better to make this happen. But in general, I'm for the project. I don't know if 4 is the right number, maybe 3 is. I don't believe that the lots, particularly this lot 1 that runs behind my house, is an attractive lot. And again, my safety issue with the wall is the children, and I think that can be addressed. I don't think that's anything that's out of the ordinary, but that's all. Thank you.
Any questions?
Not a question, but one comment as the applicant, and we certainly agree with your concern for safety. Applicant's certainly willing to agree to a condition that would safeguard the top of the retaining wall to ensure that nobody would down there. So, sure. Comment.
Thank you.
The only question there is, I think Mr. Rhodes brought that up, is whether or not, depending on what that is, you may need additional relief.
Right, and I would say subject to making sure that it doesn't violate any provisions of the zoning ordinance. So, certainly whatever the zoning board requires.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Okay. Just the idea of safety and driving. Great move here. I will say that over here on Darby Road, we're seeing people fly all the time. In December, I had somebody hit the telephone pole out in front of my house. Later in January, they crossed over my house, crossed over 4008 or 4004 Darby, which is right here, and then ended driving off the front yard of 4000 Darby Road. So
Where's your house, Jeff?
My house is right here. It's the second one in.
Right across from where they just built that new one?
Yeah, so new one here and then new one here. I have a wraparound driveway, and Darby Road starts to bend at the front of my property. So Mr. Frederickson had said that prior to buying the house, there was a deal with e-builders that they had to take out the old retaining walls. My point is just that either way, whether you split on Darby Road or split on Sproul Road, we have traffic that is going way too entirely fast. I know that Darby Road, there's a sign for 35 miles per hour. right on Mr. Frederickson's property.
Unfortunately, that's outside of this board's purview.
Yes, I
So-
understand, but my point is that we have traffic coming down Sproul Road, splitting off onto Darby, but continuing also down past this house that is going in excess of 50 miles per hour in 35, 45 mile per hour areas. It has historically been like this. At 43 and growing up in the area, I remember being 16 and this house being vacant and flying by, and people still do that today. So I do believe that changing down here will help make that safer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to do the other decision first, and then we're going to call Cameron. Decide what to do. All right, Cameron, we're going to put your case on hold just for a moment, and we're going to switch gears real quickly. With respect to case Z2516, Justin and Sarah Piff. Jessica, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Ed?
Yes.
Are you prepared? Bill?
Yes.
Jesse? You prepared to vote?
Which one was this?
Piff. Justin and Sarah Piff.
Yes.
All right, now, I'm going to make a motion, and feel free to suggest any additional conditions that you might deem appropriate, unless you're going to vote against it, which is fine. I'm going to move that we approve the requested relief with the following conditions: water runoff controlled so as not to adversely impact any neighboring properties. Project be completed in accordance with the notes of testimony and completed in 1 year of this approval.
I agree.
Bill? Agree. Ed?
I agree.
Jessica?
I would want to add a condition that the porch not grow any larger than what is there currently. So not granting the additional 12 inches, but allowing them to keep the existing nonconformity and reconfigure it.
I think I'll let my motion stand, so,
Then I disagree.
okay. So that application's approved 4-1. Now, back to Z25-19. Cameron, would you come up here for a moment, please? This is all. Okay. What's your availability for our next hearing? What's our agenda look like on the 15th? I mean, this won't take much time on the 15th anyway, if you're available on the 15th.
The date after that would be June 5th.
15th will work for us.
The 15th, you said, Ernie?
Yes. All right, so we'll hold the record open and continue this to May 15th.
All right. Minutes?
Yes, we have minutes that we received from Ernie for March 20th and April 17th, and I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved and accepted into the record. Anything else? All right, we're adjourned.